Big cough.
Mm-hmm.
Creditless at that. Like they forgot about one of the greatest arcs of all time. What did we gain?
I don't know. I think I still. Yeah, I don't know. I still like Star Success the most because it's a serious setting, but it's so ridiculous at times. I mean, that's the best part. I know. No, I think Star Success is like especially like that. I think.
You might say that it truly is a bizarre adventure.
Yes. I think still one of the best episodes is the with the Oingo Boingo brothers and the fucking There was the it was the these are the best. What do you mean? That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying, man. They're all serious, but it's completely fucking stupid.
I mean, you're also gonna act like they didn't have a gaming episode.
I mean, imagine our entire our entire group of heroes is like completely oblivious to the fucking bad guys trying to constantly kill them. I don't know. It's that one was great. Or where Abdul and Joseph had were magnetically attached to each other. That was also a great episode.
So if I go looking through your computer, I'm not going to find a bunch of Abdul X Joseph fan art, am I?
No.
I don't believe you, but I'll take your word for it.
Right on.
Take you straight to Polnareff land.
Polnareff.
I love that one.
Yeah, that is a fun one.
Or is it just Persona 4? Not the Beezars.
Beezar.
You never asked Cat, what do you mean?
Hey, Cad, you want to restart JoJo Part 5 and watch it with me? Actually, I might be close to catching up to you. I don't remember what the last episode I watched was. I think... The last thing I remember in that series was them on a train with a toidle. Don't worry about what I'm planning to do with the turtle. You should be asking what I'm planning on doing with the horseshoe crab.
He's gonna throw it like a frisbee.
Extreme frisbee. Extreme golf frisbee.
So Extreme Frisbee is kind of litty. If you ever played it?
Just watching the opening for JoJo 4, and I'm just like, Now I want to watch the first arc of Yu Yu Hakusho again.
Yu Yu Hakusho is so good.
I remember my first introduction to JoJo was actually one of my friends playing a cyberpunk character in a tabletop game, and he was the techie, I think. He's also our getaway driver, but his major defining character flaw was he struck JoJo poses and had a giant pompadour. And I had no idea what either of those things were at the time.
They are. As a matter of fact, Cad, tweet that.
It's a different kind of engagement farm, Cat. Do it.
Do it, Cad. Tweet it.
Why? Scared, Potter?
Yes.
Or Sword Art Online is our dot hack Sword Art Online reference.
I'm gonna kill you, Zephyr.
We all know that Kirito is going to be the best saber that they release in FGO. You
Or Voltron
can
wins a better
make him. Listen, we all know the best Gundam is Tequila Gundam.
Amen, brother.
No,
Hell yeah,
it's
brother.
the Nether Gundam. Come on, what the fuck, man?
No, not the Nether Gundam, not the Hurricane Gundam. The Tequila
Good
Gundam.
move.
The Z-
では前に出ます
no politics, chat. I knew the second they started arguing about frickin' Gundam, that's where that was going. Okay. I got the tweet out. Do me the favor, go give it some love. I'm getting everything hooked up on my end. I'm running a little bit behind and may have been slowed down by eating some Haagen-Dazs. Oh, I am sorry for not streaming yesterday. I told you guys I was considering it. I did consider it, and I decided not to. I think I just needed the day off. It's just better for me to do that. Okay. I think we are good. Okay, so that's just freaking weird. Did that actually work? It did. So, oh my god. Okay, chat. I need to explain something real quick before we go live. My chat bot blends both Twitch and YouTube chats together for weeks. I shit you not, okay? For weeks. Actually, I said weeks. For months. It has been not updating when I go live with YouTube. So that is why I've had to reboot the bot every single time. Over the weekend, I finally fixed that. But what I did is I found a place to manually tell it, hey, my stream is live. Go check that out. And now, instead, the bot just automatically grabs my stream and pulls it in. And I'm like, why didn't you do that for months? So it's like it gaslit me until I went and found the one setting it was going to refuse. It's just driving me batty. I swear, dude, technology. Okay. Anyway, let's get this party started, shall we? We do a little trolling. It feels that way. Hello, everybody. Here is today's artwork. Go give the artist some love. Like I said, I also got the tweet out. Do me the favor on that as well. Again, hope everybody's doing good. Hope everybody had a good weekend. I'm tired as shit. I did not feel like streaming today. That is why I'm a little bit slow. Not mentally necessarily, but tired like physically. It is what it is. I got a lot of stuff to do. I'd rather do it, take off later in the week or something if I have to, and kind of get everything I need to do under control. Are you liking Lilum so far? I really like the story, actually. I think the story is really nice. Though, to be fair, I already knew some of what goes on here from my discussions with Trubs in the past. So, I knew the overall general theme because y'all know this involves a saber face. And so I had some questions for Trubs in particular about the overall flow of the event, what was transpiring, and in particular, what happens at the end. I'm not going to spoil anything for anyone. But it is definitely interesting to see how things are unfolding. Okay, let's finish off Alexander's upgrade. Actually, do I have Avalon here? I'm just curious if Avalon, if he got footage for all the stuff, or if I need to go into a separate screen here and record for some of these. The reactions to FGO joke events is peak. It is. It's really well done. And he said, I think my only complaint, don't have footage for the two. Okay. Let me see what I can do about that. It's been really good. My only complaint about Lilum Harlot is the 5 AP side quests that are not side quests at all because they're actually required by the missions. So to me, it defeats the entire point of them. It's like you're calling it a side quest, but you're requiring it for progression. So it's like we have to do it anyways. It may as well just be the main story at that point. But it's almost like an interlude or a appendix to the actual like main story. I did the art command for everyone, didn't I? I believe I did. By the way, chat, this song, if you ever hear the rest of it, but instrumentalized, it is entirely the basis for the shenanigans song that occurs in Love is War. Like just the instrumental here. It's freaking hilarious when you notice it. I did it just... And sorry, I just did it to have it for the future. Oh no, that's all good. What? Yeah, okay, so you guys have never noticed this? Right round. Let me see if I can find it. Is it this? I don't want to get DMCA'd, so I'm gonna have to be really cautious with this. Come on. It's 100%. 100% the same thing. It is the background beat to You Spin Me Right Round. Like, Like I said, it's from Love is War, Kaguya-sama Love is War. Right? Like this right here. No effing way. Yeah. You guys never realized that? Anime's done that a couple of times lately. I forget what the anime was, but one of them was absolutely copying the Conan the Barbarian theme. How did you realize it? I have an ear for this. I like literally it just these sorts of things I notice when like a song sounds really similar to another song. And I think like some people are just like this. Like I know Andre has an ear for like VAs and always being able to tell like which VA is which. It's the same thing with me with songs. If I've heard a song a couple of times, I will know that I've heard it before. No matter like how many times I listen to something else, I will know that I've heard that song before in the past. But it is fine. Like I think it's great that they use it. It's just like I've said this before when I've been watching the anime with people, and I'm like, I feel like I'm taking crazy pills because no one else hears it. And just slightly reworked it. Yeah. And it's like, it's the same here. You can tell it's just ever so slightly reworked. Well, I can't show off the Martha one. How do you want me to show off Alexander? Hmm. Oh yes, Neko Arc. Okay, yeah, the charge is flat, so I can probably do. Well, it's got to be. I think it's got to be Oberon, doesn't it? MLB scope or max depend. I got an MLB scope. Writer. There he is. Ruler. Wait, how did I end up with her? Is she permanent? Or did I get her from a GSSR? She is perma? Okay. I thought she was like, yeah, no, she is. She is. I don't know why I'm thinking she's not. Spider Girl. Okay. I gotta think about this because yeah, it's gonna have to be doing it in that order. Let me switch scenes here real fast, chat. Okay, so you want me here or gone for this recording? Like I could do that. There's Aurelia. Boom. Okay. So chat, this is just me recording like footage for Alexander for a video here. Because obviously we're going to be talking about the buffs. Quick Shufu or Asclepius? Yeah. I feel like there's a lot you could do. You can do 2 times Scotty with the buff? Okay, I'll do it this way and I'll do it the other way. And that's 3 turns. I really don't want to touch that yet. So we'll just go ahead. Hopefully he's strong enough to actually get through these waves. Your ears did not, in fact, bleed. Refund's a bit tight. Oh, it definitely is. Hmm. No effect. Hmm. Okay. So there's that. I definitely need a node that I can more properly loop with double Scotty on. Still good damage? Oh, yeah. I don't even have his skills maxed either. What do I got here? I got Rider and Berserker now. No, probably not that. Maybe? The problem is none of them are mono class. Could always go for doors. Yeah, I suppose I can do doors. Not like there's anything else going on JP at the moment. And if I'm even luckier... Oh, of course, now of all times, I can't find a Scotty with the QPC. Y'all always have QP up and never the Bond C, and now I can't find them. I swear, y'all are freaking debating me. Ain't no way. Ain't no way. Alright, I give up. We'll just take Bond. It's fine. I don't need the QP that bad. Okay, and then for this Avalon, I gotta wait on his first skill till turn 3, right? Use the filter. The filter won't make different people appear. It will just filter to what did appear. Skill 1 on turn 3, same with Oberon, all charge. Okay, so basically it's gonna go... It's gonna basically go all of this, both their charge skills turn 2, his first, and Oberon skills in turn 3. Yeah, I remember reviewing it. I needed the clarification that that's exactly what it was. Okay. Let's begin. Less is not none. Yeah, I'll turn the camera back on in a second, chat. Just patience. In fact, I'm not going to go fast. I'm going to pad so that there's extra time here. I'd rather not show off a bad run. Let's let the animations play out so it pads time. Okay. It's force of habit. I'm really bad about like tapping things to make everything go faster because I don't normally pad like this. I have to like force myself not to press this. Still no effect, but why not? Yeah, this is the new Alex buff. Whee! Like I said, chat, you know, Avalon's having to do some of this. I'm having to do some of this. But if you guys want to help, if you guys have recording software in any way, shape, or form, and you want to submit footage of like new buffs and stuff like this, by all means, let me know. I am definitely down to do that sort of stuff. We can even credit you guys for the footage. It does not bother me in the slightest. But that is at least helpful. Okay. Wait, why am I over here now? There we go. There we go. All right, back to the screen. Sorry about that, chat. So that's Alex at least. I can probably do Martha, but I need to do Martha's stuff here. No footage for Xang Yu, I guess. I believe Avalon already got Xang Yu footage, right? Martha would need a pen because 30% charger. I can look at that. I might be able to do it. I might not. It just depends. Whee! At least she'll be easy. I don't have to care at all about refund. See, now I can just blitz through this. It's well, how many days do we have left on this campaign? Because I still got so many of these strengthenings to do, and they're only like 5 AP. So I need a day where I just do it. Did you already summon for Draco Cat? I did. I haven't got the chance to post the video for that yet because I think OKist is still working on it, but it'd be what it be. I tried to find the VOD. Wasn't there? VOD should be on the VOD's channel. Because we have a second channel now. And please, subscribe to the second channel. If you guys haven't already, the channel is at CAD Plays. And I would really appreciate any subscriptions you guys could give me over there. Really helps us out. We're trying to get that second channel monetized. Until that point, none of my VODs are monetized. I am not making any money off of that. So it's kind of burning a hole in my pocket at the moment. because we used to have them monetized on the main channel at least. So yeah, I'm not getting any residuals off of that. In CAD plays, yeah. And thank you for the link burning. Appreciate it. Kat, are you going to play through the Lilim event or just do it off screen? I definitely have been like doing story and stuff off screen, but I will definitely go over there and spend my AP down. Just sub, did not know it was a thing. Yeah, it's kind of what I keep hearing from people, and I think it's just, you know, I attribute it to like not everybody watches me every day and stuff like that. I've mentioned it a ton of times, but it's easily a case of like, hey, maybe it just, you know, for better or worse, like doesn't get picked up on. Either people are like AFK when I mention it, or they're not paying attention, or they're just not there that day. And it's like, it's fine. It's on me to keep saying it over and over again. Not even a premium support helps? Nope. If you're premium and you're like watching, it does not matter. They get all the money because literally the second channel cannot be monetized. Not until it gets to the point that it has enough, like, and what's hilarious is view time on the second channel is not an issue in the slightest. It absolutely has enough view time because people go back and watch the VODs, and my VODs are like 4-hour long VODs. What is a problem is active subscribers. You have to have 1,000 active subscribers in order to be able to monetize, in order to be able to partner with YouTube. Which is weird because I've heard before that you're able to, what's the word I'm looking for? You're able to like bring it all under your brand account and partner it that way. And I've looked into that, and everything that I've looked into just says like, yeah, it's literally how I have it set up. And yet YouTube does not allow for it to be, you know, partner in the same way. So I don't know why, but it's stupid. YouTube didn't fix the notifications problem. What do you mean? Wasn't on the VOD playlist, but it's in the live tab. Oh, really? That's weird. Maybe I just, for that, like, one specific one, I didn't actually put it in the playlist. That's my bad if that's the case. If you shoot me a DM, I'll make sure that gets done tomorrow. I can only imagine all the Liz's getting more and more nervous around these anti-dragon servants. Pretty much. Okay, so we got her. Let me go check her append. I may already have a maxed out append for her. If it's not here, it's on an A. Okay, it's not here. Because in A, I think I did one for a raid or something like that. Let's see how bad this is. Worst case, you could use a K-scope instead. Now, where's the fun in that? Let's show it off properly. Besides, honestly, like, this is exactly what I just end up doing for her later on anyways. So I got no problem in leveling the append for this effect. Now, that being said... yeah, the charge does level with this one, so I also got to lower the skill. Uh-oh. Is this Crab Rave? This is Crab Rave. Why am I blind? There she is. It's nice too that she actually has a steroid here. Oh my god, it is Crab Rave? See, I told you. Like, I can hear just the opening to a lot of songs and immediately know what it is. So, because what I pick up on is like the beat, the background of the song, right? So it's why, like, when you get something like the one song there for Kaguya-sama, it's like I immediately picked up on. I was like, where have I heard this before? So happy Martha got a charge upgrade. Yeah, she really needed it. Okay, so now I can go do this. Is there somebody else here that I kind of want to do? I have no 5-star Lancers on this list. So they're already done. Chat, tomorrow's the big day, by the way. We're going to find out one way or another who was right, who is wrong. I guess we'll just do this one. Wait. Boom. 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 Yeah, we don't need that. We want cranking. Let's crank one out. Okay, let me switch scenes here again, chat. I don't know how much, like, footage you'll get here, and I don't know if, like, Avalon, if you want to film some dummy footage with, like, a Martha that you get on support or something. Because, like, doing an actual 3-turn here, I'm not going to get very much footage. What the heck is this that I'm listening to? Yeah, the trend is that it's all permanent units so far, but it's not necessarily exclusive in that regard. Okay. Just gonna keep doing this. Actually, don't know how low of a cooldown I have on that. 6 turns, so we can go ahead and pop that this turn. None of it matters. Oh, that's right. I forgot you got the animation update a while back. It's been a hot second since I've used Martha. Okay. God damn it, I accelerated that one. Ah! Damn, damage good. Okay. I mean, like, if there's well, there's not really any other way I can do this one. I guess I could, like, mix her in or something like that, but not really anything else I can do on that front. Shop reset? Yeah, it did. Okay, so JP is spent down for a minute. Let's go over to NA. Make sure that I'm not capped out over here. Mix her in with something, yeah. I mean, let me know. If I have to, I can put her up on support. A lot of buffed units this time has mismatched decks. I mean, I feel like people all the time like make way too big of a deal out of the deck. Don't get me wrong. Servant's deck can absolutely be great, but the important idea behind a deck is simply to know what it is so that you can take the most advantage of it. So it's like, I see people all the time that are like, oh yeah, these units, like, this is a Buster unit and it has triple arts deck, and I'm like, that's actually kind of good. Like, don't get me wrong, yeah, obviously if it has triple arts, you're not going to be able to function with like, oh hey, I now have like a triple Buster turn, you know, out of the unit where they use their NP and I get 2 Buster cards or something like that. But the good news is, having all of those arts cards, you can form triple arts chains easily. You can get back to an MP easily. So it's like, usually having more arts cards is generally good for performance in terms of getting back to a Noble Phantasm. I do think the Mighty Chain lessened that to some degree, but it is still really solid in as far as things to have. I think double X and double Y is perfect IMO. Yeah, usually. What are the dogs doing? What the dog doing, chat? So I was doing Draco for the whole thing, but the event made me use little boy alter ego. So we doing it. And I just didn't bother to change the composition. Sea drop, I got one earlier today too. I was surprised by that. Yeah, I didn't formally record that okayest, but you should be able to get that out of the VODs for me. That's actually hefty. I may have wanted to have popped a attack up or something, but it should be fine. Wait. I have a damage C on him? I should have done that earlier. Honestly, I feel a lot of games do really fun April Fool's stuff. Yeah, so FGO JP had a Vampire Survivors game. It was pretty cool. I just, like, apparently it's already down. They already, like, took it down. It's gone. And it was, like, really, really region locked is what Trubs was telling me. Which is, like, it's cool. I just wish that they would make them, like, permanently available somehow. But I get it. That's not going to be a permanent Lancer with a mismatched deck that'll be buffed. Oh, yeah. No, I know. I think these sorts of things are always, like, it's easy to point at, like, hey, this is a, how should I put it? Like this is a trend. And therefore people think because it's a trend, the rest will be the same trend. It might be. It might also not be. That's the issue that a lot of people end up running into, is they convince themselves that the rest must also be true. And it's like, well, not always. Yeah, we're going to start with the triple arts at this point. But he should loop easily there. My hubby showed me the Nikkei April Fool's thing. I have no idea what they do for it. I never see or hear about what any other gacha games do for their April Fools. I assume they all do them, like, because it's such a like common thing to do, but I myself never really like notice it. Because I think that sort of stuff always just gets stuck internally within the fandom. I would pay for it if it was in English. Yeah, that's what makes me wonder if like that's why they took it down so fast, is like, is there maybe some sort of like copyright issue or something there? And they were like, well, it's just a parody, so we're not going to like make anything more of it. But they may have also realized, oh shit, this is actually a good idea. People would actually play this. Wait, we can make money off of this. The moment I expect something, they go in the opposite direction. That's a good mentality to have. Like, you guys know, I sit up here and I predict a lot of things with you guys. In fact, as of right now, with the way the buffs have gone, so we had Arjuna. Nobody really got to predict this because it just was there from the very moment it began. Emiya, Sutheno, I called both of these. A lot of people were thinking it was going to be other people, but like something told me it was Carrie's time. It just, he had not received really anything, so he was in dire need of some sort of upgrade. Sutheno has just perpetually kind of been in a bad state. This change really helped her out. Xang Yu was my chief choice here, so I also called this one. Alexander, I'm gonna be honest with you guys. Martha was mentioned as well by me. Alexander was mentioned by me, but I don't really like. I wouldn't take credit for these. These three, I all said would happen. These two, I said it's possible, but like to me, I didn't see them as the front runner. So I was thinking it was going to be Red Hair instead of Alexander. And the 4-star writer was a real toss-up. And I just really wasn't sure who to think on this one. I felt like there were so many people that it could be. So at this point, I'm doing okay. Everybody at least has been someone that I've mentioned. And I'd say I'm like 3 for 5 on the guessing. So like that's pretty darn good track record. And we'll see. We'll see what it's like with the Lancer slot. Like I've told you guys, my 3 guesses for this, and if it is one of those 3, I will declare a victory, is Lartoria, Vritra, and Hamamo Lancer. Now, one of those is story locked, another is perm, and the other is limited. So, guess you could say I'm hedging my bets here, but like, to a degree, each one of these 3 needs it for different reasons. And at the end of the day, if it's not one of these 3, I'm not going to immediately like lose my shit. But I've told you guys, there are a couple of people that this could be that it would deeply upset me. Deeply upset me. In the same way that like, I was saying this before, but there was a strong possibility that Morgan Le Fay was actually going to get this buff due to the fact that the Chaldea like radio stream announced formally that Morgan Le Fay was going to have a banner on March 29th. So a lot of people were like, wait, you just announced a berserker, a 5-star berserker having a banner the day a 5-star berserker is getting a buff. Hold on, right? So it's like a lot of people are like, wait, that might mean that Morgan's getting a buff. And it wouldn't be the most like insane thing if Morgan did get a buff, but Morgan doesn't really need a buff. And like I was telling people before, it's like if she got it, that was really gonna piss some people off. So like to the same degree, chat, I am almost terrified of what that is. I am terrified that this could be something that just deeply upsets people. Because if this does end up being a buff to, like, say Enkidu, for instance, again, like, I've seen people claiming Enkidu needs a buff. I don't know what to tell these people. Enkidu does not need a buff. What would you even buff on Enkidu? What would you even buff on Melisson? Like, and I've seen people claiming that Melisson needs a buff. So, I hate to say it. If it's not Melisson, some people will riot. No offense. Those people can all go get bent. I literally do not give two shits about people that think Melisson needs a buff. Because if people actually truly believe that she does, they just don't pay attention at all to the way FGO works, or even that character's relative power level. It's the same thing as, like, if Morgan got buffed and people got angry. I would expect people would get angry if Melisson received any amount of attention. It would be the same deal if it happens to Enkidu. There are certain units out there that are just sitting on the top of their heap, and they really don't need no attention. We've seen in the past them take someone that statistically was sitting at the top of the heap and buff them. Does anyone know who that was? There's 2 times in my memory that has happened, where they have buffed the top damage dealer in their type. No. Wasn't the top damage dealer. Saber. No, Saber was not the top damage dealer. Melt. Ooh, Melt may be a third. Was there a single target alter ego that outdamaged Melt? Okay, Jalter would be a fourth. Musashi was not the top damage dealer at the time. So chat has listed Jalter. Melt. Shisho, no. Ozzy, no. Emiya Alter. I don't believe that has happened, because I believe the buff that Emiya Alter got is what made him the top, if memory serves. Or has Emiya Alter gotten another one since then? Emiya got a battery later. Okay, then we could say Emiya, so it's happened 5 times that I know of them. But we're calling this Emiya Alter. Enkidu. I'm going to give Enkidu a pass. And the reason I'm going to give Enkidu a pass is because Enkidu, well, no, I'll give it a pass. Enkidu was technically not the top. Technically. At least with the way the single target Lancers work. Because the single target Lancer niches are such that one of the other Lancers always covers the niche. Always. CAD trying to make me remember things? No, it's fine. Okay. So the 2 that I'm thinking of, and I'm surprised nobody listed these. And to be fair, I think to AT, each one of them is older. But let's start with the ones chat listed. Jalter. Why did Jalter get a buff, chat? Does anyone know? This is an easy one, by the way. Eris? Eris is probably a strong argument, but the change was probably already being enacted pre-Eris. It was either Tyra or, yeah, I think it's safe to say it was King of the Cavern. So they knew they already had a upcoming unit that was going to damage roughly as much as her, and stun, and charge. And what did that leave Jalter? Nothing. So they gave Jalter charge where she had none. They didn't buff her damage. I mean, I guess in a roundabout way, giving her charge does buff her damage, but they didn't directly impact her. Melt, I'm going to be honest, on this list, Melt is probably the worst offender. Melt did not need a buff. I said it back then, I'll say it again, Melt didn't need a buff. The only argument for buffing Melt was quite literally that Tiamat existed. So I don't really know what to say, because like Melt getting a buff was literally watching every other alter ego just go like, okay. Emiya, I mean, listen, chat, normally I would agree with you. Like me being impartial, I will say any bug should absolutely be fixed. However, me taking my impartiality away would say Melisson fans can learn to use literally anyone else for a little while, and it's not going to be the end of the world. So it is what it is. Emiya A, I'm going to say he didn't really need it, but he kind of has usability issues. This has actually always been his biggest problem. Emiya Alter does good damage. Emiya Alter is just annoying to use sometimes. He's very simplistic with his kit. It is one of the most boring kits in the entire game. It works, it's effective, but it has consistency problems, and that is its issue. So that's what they tried to fix with that. I don't think that one's nearly as bad as Melt. Melt didn't have any issues when Melt got her last buff. So it just was what it was. So the two that chat missed. Number 1. All y'all kept saying Ozzy. This was actually your top damage dealer. The only person that beat Maid Alter in damage was what's her face? Meb against males. So they buffed Maid Alter when she was top. But what did they buff? They buffed her second skill. They didn't give her any damage. Like they literally gave her a quality of life to fix how bad her second skill was. So that one's pretty okay. Okay. Yeah. And I'm really surprised no one else thought of this one. Iskandar got a buff when he was the top damage dealer. And guess what it did? It actually gave Iskandar more damage. It actually gave Iskandar more damage. The thing about this is, it didn't give him any charge. I'm not talking about his most recent buff, chat. I'm talking about Iskandar's first buff. Iskandar's first buff actually gave him more damage output, and it still didn't matter, because even though he was the top dog, he was the least usable of all of the like AoE riders. So people were like, wait, why are you buffing him? He does the most damage. It's like, yeah, but you have to actually get him to a point to do the most damage. Yeah. So it's like, that one, in each one of these cases, pretty much to me, other than Melt, they were quite literally just dealing with a playability issue. Every single one of them was like, yeah, hey, this aspect of the character was straight ass. In Melt's case, they were just like, no, let's give the top damage dealer more damage. I don't really know why they did that. That just was stupid to me. But it is what it is. I can say there's definitely some favoritism with Melt. Hoping for a Lartoria buff tonight? Yeah. So it's like, to a degree, is there something you could buff on Melisson? Sure. Is there something you could buff on Enkidu? Sure. They don't really need it. I'm going to be honest with you. Neither of those two units have any quote-unquote playability issue. I will not look at an upgrade to either of those two and be like, yes, I can see why they did that. That was necessary. No, I'll just look at that and I will just call it like I see it. That will just be extreme favoritism towards LB6 units, particularly Melisson, if it happens to her. Or, hey, yet another buff to Enkidu, who is already just the best single target Lancer by far. So when you start to look at that sort of stuff, you go, what the heck are they doing? Right? And that's where I think it's really bad for the game if they do. I think some people want those upgrades, and I don't think people are prepared to have the discussion of, hey, your developers are actually a bunch of idiots, and this game isn't worth playing because of that. People don't want to hear a conversation like that. People will immediately shut down. People will start to get really pissed if that becomes the pervasive mentality within the community. And that's what a buff to those two units would do. So I understand why people want it, but I also am going to say that that desire is nothing more than bias. It's purely, hey, I want a buff to my favorite character. That's it. That's really the only way you can excuse calling for it. Because buffing one of these, the melt, like I said, really not too bad. Each one of those buffs that they gave them, they pretty much did need. Iskandar, you can maybe debate as to whether or not he actually needed it, but that was just a case of they were going through, they were fixing all of the tactics buffs, and they fixed Iskandars in the process. I think if I look at either of the other two units that we've been talking about there, I don't really see anything like that. Anything where they could kind of scroll through and be like, hey, this would be an issue. As for like other Lancers, if we're talking about if it's not one of the three that I mentioned here, so Lartoria, Tamamo Lancer, or Vritra, if it's not one of these three, it's still fine. There's still plenty of other Lancers that need it, and I'm going to be honest with you. Like I've said before, you have kind of these three at the back. You have a whole bunch of people in the middle. You have this weird gap where nothing exists, and then you have Mel. And Kidu's like right here. Here's Mel. There's nothing within this gap. And then there's like a whole bunch of other people. So you can buff like anybody in here and it's still fine. Anybody in here and it's still fine. Because I saw someone in chat was like, hey, could you buff Roma? Yes. Yes, you can. You can absolutely buff Roma. I see no problem buffing Roma. Erish buff? Erish is maybe up there as well. Because Erish has gotten 2 recent upgrades. There is something you can upgrade on Erish that makes a whole lot of sense. But I don't know that they need to or want to at the moment. So we'll just see. And I do think, like, so for instance, I'll give you guys an example. I saw someone literally just the other day, it's like, oh, it's been forever since Karna had a buff. Karna needs this upgrade. Somebody hasn't been paying attention. And I do think this is how this discussion, this discourse happens within the community. People forget that certain units have had upgrades very recently. Like, I do think Karna could get another upgrade. I'm not going to argue that. But saying he needs it because he hasn't had one in a long time is a bad argument because he literally just got buffed. So odds are this is not a Karna buff. That being said, we've seen it happen before. We've literally watched them go, Ozzy gets a buff, Cats gets a buff, Ozzy gets another buff. So, like, it's a thing. They could definitely do it. Possible some units are just NA players and don't pay attention to JP. Oh, yeah. And that's like, whenever I see that, I don't go like, ha, you fucking idiot. No, like, I just look at that, I'm just like, okay, they clearly, like, they don't know what they're talking about. Like, I don't think anything ill of them. I just understand that, like, some people are way more, like, in tune with these sorts of things. Some people are not. And to be fair, chat, even I forget, like, with the sheer amount of buffs that have occurred and with, like, how long we've been playing this game, I forget certain units have buffs. Straight up. Like, it is a very common thing. So Bima could get a buff. He's story locked. Yeah, I was talking about that before. Like, it wouldn't actually terribly surprise me to see Bima get something. His performance is not bad, but I think he's one of those characters. Okay, chat. Don't read into this statement too much. Bima reminds me of Emiya Alter, where nobody wants to really use the character. They're a decidedly not that popular character. And therefore, the devs seemingly like to upgrade those characters to give them some popularity. And like I said, if you're someone that likes Bima, if you're someone that likes Emiya Alter, I am not trying to shit on the character. I am merely stating what the general populace seems to be like on these two characters, what their opinion is. The general populace seems to not like Emiya Alter very much. The general populace seems to not like Bima very much. That's it. I'm not making any more statement than that. If you like them, more power to you. Bima is super strong, though. He hits super hard. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, you could give him an upgrade, but it's probably going to be like a quality of life upgrade. I don't see them doing too much in the way of, like, boosting damage output. Drama Lancer also needs a buff? Yep. Do you think Kentucky Berserker will get a buff at some point because his kit is so basic? I think you could buff his kit. I don't see them buffing his damage output. Not directly. I mean, honestly, this could be a Ryoma Lancer buff if we have Gouda coming. An easy win. That being said, I'm going to be honest with you. Chat. If they use this buff for Gouda 6, I'm pissed. Yeah, I agree with Avalon. They will likely do something like that during the actual rerun for attention during the rerun. If they use this buff to buff a Gouda unit, I'm going to sit there and I'm going to go like, but why? What? Like, why would you do that? You're falling to the Morgan trap. Yeah, exactly. And that's what I was trying to warn people about. It's like, look, there are trends. Don't assume that a trend will be like absolute, right? To 2-turn, maybe 3? Yeah, maybe. Well, that's why I said don't expect a direct buff to his damage output. I can see them giving Bima an overcharge effect and a skill so it helped his damage. I don't think they necessarily want to do that. This is why I've said, like, for Lartoria, chat, one of the best things they can do is give her overcharge. But I don't actually expect them to do that. And the reason why is because if they wanted a one-size-fits-all solution where they buff the NP, and then they also slap overcharge on that, that means you get it every time you NP. So that's not a good thing. The idea usually instead is to bring in external units that can grant overcharge. That usually works better. So, like, I'll give you guys an example. One of the things you can do with, like, Lartoria to get more overcharge, you literally just need, like, 1 rank of overcharge. So you could actually just have, like, you could have, like, a self-sacrificial unit fire off an NP beforehand. So, taking, like, a Habitrot or something like that and have her fire the NP, as long as she doesn't kill the wave and Lartoria still gets her NP off, this works, and this gives Lartoria more overcharge. So there are ways that you can kind of sneakily get around this sort of thing. And I do think this is also the idea behind, like, hey, taking different CEs. So to me, I'm A-okay if they don't want to give Lartoria more overcharge. But if you're not going to give me overcharge, and I'm stuck using something like Mud Rain, which is a really good craft essence, but less damage than Black Grail, I expect more damage on the Lartori end of things. So then that means I'm now expecting a non-standard NP interlude. And I don't think we're ready to have that conversation yet, chat. Because I watch people freak the fuck out every time someone gets a non-standard NP interlude. People are like, that's too much. No, they can't get that. It's too much. And I'm like, was it to the unit that was at the top of the heap? No. Oh, what's that? It was to the unit that was getting perennially maligned by everybody for not dealing enough damage? Huh. Interesting. So, like, again, some of you guys listed Musashi as a unit where the top unit got a buff. You know what? They did buff Musashi's other skills, so that technically was another instance of it. I was thinking about the first buff, and I assumed that's what people were talking about. When Musashi got her NP interlude, Musashi was not the top saber damage dealer. Does anyone actually know who was the top saber damage dealer at the time that Musashi got her NP interlude? Does anyone remember? Yep, abandoned got it. It was Caesar. It was a fucking 3-star. And it was at that point they went, oh shit, we kind of need to upgrade the NPs on these sabers. Really? Yeah. And then the Musashi buff is what kicked everything else off. And that is why. So when people were like freaking out about Musashi's upgrade, I was like, it's fine. It's not that crazy. Yeah, he needed buffs to align, but he was that strong. And if it wasn't, I believe right behind was Bedivere at that time. Both of the two of them had recent buffs, and they were sitting on the top of the heap because they had not, at the time, upgraded any of the single target sabers other than Bride. And Bride had only been upgraded to bring Bride into parity with them. Okida's buff? Okida's buff came after. Single target? Yeah, I was not talking about AoE, sorry. About a spot as a single target sabers? Oh, they're fine now. It's just that was an issue. And it's really hilarious because we see archers in the exact same issue, but archers have been left there for years. So it's like, not really sure what they're doing in that regard, but I guess they're doing something, right? Using Betty to farm eggs is amazing. Oh yeah. Bedivere is still a very, very serviceable unit. Archer outdated class. I mean, chat. So it's really funny, right? Because we've had this discussion numerous times on stream. And I feel like most of the times that I bring it up, somebody comes out of the woodwork to tell me that I'm wrong and tell me that, like, they don't need it. So let's talk Squirtoria NP interlude. And every time I bring this up, again, somebody's like, no, Squirtoria doesn't need an NP interlude. And then I ask them why. And their answer is because she's fine without it. And I'm like, you're right. She can loop and keep doing it. So based off that logic, chat, I now have to hold you all hostage. If Squirtoria cannot get an NP interlude because she loops fine without it, then Medea is no longer allowed to have an NP interlude. Counter argument: Moriarty needs the buff more. Oh, why do you say that? What's your counter for that? Like there's your statement, but what's the proof? Why do you say Moriarty needs it more? Not gonna lie, I want more Medea. That's too bad. You don't get it. Oh, Lasingle forgot they added her to the game. Yeah, you're not wrong. Because Squirt at least loops. Okay, but so does Moriarty. Oh. Chat, this isn't Grandpappy's old Buster comp. We now have things like Koyanskaya and Oberon. Let me just remove Moriarty from some team comps. Yep. See, Avalon gets it. Have we seen Medea in an event story since 2021? I don't know. When was the last time we saw Lartoria? Like OG Lartoria. We actually did get to see Lalter here in this event. Albeit as just nothing more than a shadow, but... You think a battery buff for Squirtoria was necessary? No, I called it out when it happened. I said I'll certainly take it, but I did not think it was necessary. Don't get me wrong, it helped usability. But the easiest way I can explain this to you is, chat, there are 2 units that are the highest refunders in the entire game. They both come from the exact same summer event. And their names are Surfmo and Squirtoria. So, if you're having to give the highest refunder in the entire game a charge skill, then you need to give everybody in the game a fucking charge skill. Like I said, it absolutely helped usability, but really not a good thing if you consider that. Except lanterns and ley lines? I'd have to look, but lanterns are not given out very often anymore, I feel like. Not that you need that many of them, but... Yeah, when we get more ya boy Kong Ming? When's season 2? Cad, what's her damage output like in comparison to other single target archers? Who? Squirtoria? Like what do you want to know? Like where she stands exactly? Top Raw is still Emiya. Second Raw is Tomoe. I'd have to double check. But yeah, I was gonna say I think Balbon's third. And I think Gil is way up there now. And I know no one wants to hear that. So you can use Tamama with her. I mean, I'm going to go ahead and tell you the times that I've been able to keep a consistent Squirtoria loop going the longest have been using Tamamo. Tomoe the 4-star? Yeah. Gil is only up there for his niche. Yeah, calling Gil's niche a niche is kind of a misnomer. The true niche is the niche against Gil, which is units that actually have Enema Elish nullification. Like that is the rarer. It's easier to count which units are resistant to it than it is to count which units it affects. This QL to start out easier. I mean, maybe, right? I think it was also the idea of like using her to basically be able to like, excuse me, basically to be able to like handle things in a like a multiple damage dealer setup. That's to me what it really struck me as. Is like getting her used more in everyday like farming and usage, rather than like helping her out in any specific composition. They're going to buff Squirtoria. The units have to be doing significantly more damage than her when they NP, even as a 4-star. If 4-stars are doing laps around her and damage as single target archers, then I think she'd be fine with the buff. Yeah, this is actually the issue. Your 5-stars are nowhere near the top. That's the problem. So chat, why roll a 5-star? And that's where people will go like, okay, well, Squirtoria's got a really good kit, so that's why you still roll her. You're right, she does. That is definitely a thing. However, why take Squirtoria if I can just kill something outright with Zerktoria? Why take Squirtoria when I can kill something outright with Draco? Why take Squirtoria when I can kill something outright with MHXA? Why take Squirtoria when I can kill something outright with MHXX? Why take Squirtoria when I can kill something outright with MHX? Why take Squirtoria when I can kill something outright with Seal? Why take Squirtoria when I can kill something outright with Gil? Why take Squirtoria when I can kill something outright with Musashi Berserker? The list is long, chat. Because waifu, you're not wrong. But waifu, and let me state this, because I actually want to say this, and I do think this is one of the big things that plagues FGO. When you have what I'm going to call a super meta unit that stands so far in front of the rest of the pack, it doesn't really matter who your waifu or husbando is. You start to get salty. You start to realize that your favorite will never be good in comparison to that super meta unit. And you start to realize that it is futile. Now, some people just choose to defect and go love the new super meta unit as they become a meta slave and basically say, I'm only going to use this more powerful unit. Other people just quit the fucking game. And that is the truth of the matter. I feel like over time, this really erodes people's desire to keep playing. That when their favorites are all just trash, and that there's just this super meta unit that forever reigns supreme, and your unit is never even competitive. I'm not saying like people are angry that their unit isn't the best. People are angry that their unit isn't even in the same freaking ballpark as the top unit. They're angry that they can't take their unit into the high level content and use them effectively. They're angry that favoritism is just blatantly being shown towards a select few units. That's the issue at play. And I think that hurts the community probably more than people want to give it credit for. I think one-tricking our way into like just a meta for each of these units is not a good way to balance this game. I don't think it makes anybody other than fans of that devoted unit very happy. And I literally think it hurts FGO. I think the game is better when there is balance. I think the community is better when there is balance. So I think picking up the units that are at the ass end is always a better strategy than buffing the unit on the front end, because the unit on the front end is somehow popular. I have a insane take for you guys. I'd be willing to bet there is a strong correlation with the popularity of a unit and its performance in game. What do I mean? Am I saying that the devs only choose to make the popular unit the strongest? Or am I saying the reverse? that the strongest unit seemingly is always the most popular. A bit of both, I think. There probably is a little bit of both. But it is an interesting thing to think about. It's a chicken and egg scenario. Is the unit popular because it's strong? Or is the unit strong because it's popular? And therein lies the issue. And, like, I'm going to give you guys an example of this. Summer Ibuki. I saw someone bring it up there a second ago. Summer Ibuki was where I watched everybody and their brother go all in. All of a sudden, there was this, like, full court press. Summer Ibuki's the best in the game. Everybody has to get Summer Ibuki. Why aren't you guys wanting to roll Summer Ibuki? Summer Ibuki's so good. Everybody has to have Summer Ibuki. And then a Musashi buff happened, and people started to lose their fucking mind. Because they were literally like, what the heck? What do you mean she's not the best? What do you mean she's not the top damage dealer? What? Summer Ibuki's a really good unit. But I've noticed that all of a sudden, the massive simping for Summer Ibuki just stopped. There are still Summer Ibuki fans out there. And if you say anything to bring her up, they will absolutely come out of the woodwork. But I noticed the full court press is what stopped. All of a sudden, the bandwagoners left the wagon. All of a sudden, it was no longer, you have to have Summer Ibuki. See what I mean when I say the game is actually better? When instead of having a unit up here and a unit down here, you have units like here and here. The community actually behaves better. The community stops getting all up in everyone's face. We really need the same to happen to Mello, too. Yeah, we do. We need the same to happen to Mello. I hate to say we need the same to happen to Tiamat. Probably need the same thing to happen to Cuckoo. It's not really going to matter at the end of the day. There's way too many examples of this. But that is the issue that we have. Is everybody is kind of just devoting themselves to a handful of units in a game that has 400 freaking units. That's never a good thing for the community. And it's like, there's always going to be favorites, chat. Like, an example of this will be literally any Saber face, Sakura face, or Rin face, right? Like, they're always going to have a massive number of favorites. Why? It predates literally FGO, right? So, like, that's always going to be a thing. And I'm saying this as a Saber face fan. I'm saying this as somebody that gets a crap ton of units. Some people view that as favoritism. Some people don't like the amount of Saber faces that are in the game. That's fine. I'm not really making that argument here. I'm making the argument that regardless of who the unit is, it's better to have balance in their performance. Right? So it is what it is. Power creep will happen. They need to make money. Yeah, and I get that. But, like, again, this has been an issue over time where it's like they release a new banner for somebody and then the banner doesn't perform well. Why? Because it's a banner for an older unit. A lot of people already have the unit. And those that don't have the unit don't want to roll the unit because the unit is not good. And like I said, I think this happens way more in other gacha games where they don't buff. So it's like, at least in FGO we get buffs. The issue is we're sitting here going like, when the heck are you going to buff some of these units? Like, holy shit, chat. to give you guys an example, does anyone know how long it's been since Lartoria's upgrade on JP? Yeah, Peanut got it. It's been 4 years. When did Lartoria get her first upgrade, chat? Four years ago. She didn't have one before that point. And at the point in which Lartoria got that upgrade, you quite literally immediately after got an Erish upgrade and the release of Melisson. So that upgrade almost completely got erased. If Lartoria did not have that upgrade, do you know how historically bad she would be in FGO right now? Like, it would not be a good thing. And even then, within those 4 years, out of all the Lancers that got an upgrade, objectively speaking, around that time, I guess I'll say, objectively speaking, hers was the worst. Because the other units got NP interludes. The other units got major damage overhauls or things that helped out their charge scenario. Hers, still a nice damage upgrade, situational, and 1 turn only. So it's like, yuck, dude. Takeuchi not simping hard enough? I don't even know that it's like a simping thing necessarily behind the scenes. I think with certain units we can like point to that and see like they kind of are a dev favorite with how they got handled in their design. But I think when we say dev favorite, I think it's like a Nasu issue. I think Nasu's the one that's dictating a lot of that. I think Takeuchi just draws the art. Even worse than Konstantinos pre-buff. No, I don't think you'll see a worse SSR than Constantine pre-buff. And I say this as somebody that, like, I remember back in the day, I remember Dante's being maligned. I remember, God, what was the other one? I just had it. Mao Nobu. Artemis, yeah. And to be fair, like, those units where people were like, oh my god, they're so bad. They really weren't that bad. We maybe, like, circumstances were different. We maybe didn't have as much to be able to support them. And I'm not going to say they didn't need buffs. But Lartoria without that damage upgrade quite literally would be left in the dust. She'd be surpassed by most of the 4 stars. She would literally, at this point, only have charge on her side, and that charge doesn't help her too much given the way the Koyanskaya system works. It was pretty rough. Tamamo Lancer's in a weird spot as well. Tamamo Lancer, interestingly enough, desperately needed an NP interlude. Tamamo Lancer did not get an NP interlude. What the devs chose to do is they chose to fix her 3rd skill. They got rid of the demerit. They gave her charge. She really needed that. And interestingly enough, I'm sure some people would have preferred the NP interlude, but it's actually better that she got that buff than an NP interlude first. Because if she didn't, she would not really function within the Koyanskaya system too well at all. And the Koyanskaya system adds a ton of damage. Units want to be able to work in that system. So, yes, you could use her for just like raw one-shot power still, but trying to use her longer than, 1 turn, or trying to work her into some sort of multiple damage dealer setup would have been way harder without that upgrade. So I think that upgrade really helped Tamamo's usability. I really think that absolutely helped propel her. So don't get me wrong, she still needs that upgrade, but it definitely helped out a ton. Summer Tamamo skill 3 was an amazing buff. Yeah. Fox not working with Fox, that's illegal. Well, they kind of hate each other, right? Let me go back over here, chat. Just to make sure. I'm still kind of hate her for Tamamo Lancer since she was the SSR I got from the past paid banner. I just don't want to use her. I mean, I think Tamamo Lancer hate has been a thing for years. And I think the reason why has been that, again, the performance has been bad. I've always seen a general negative opinion towards that character. And it has nothing to do with the overall likability of the character. It has everything to do with the gameplay of performance. So it's like, to me, prior to that upgrade, the literal only thing that Tamamo Lancer had going for her was her card performance. That was it. She has very decent card performance. Everything else, no real reason to use her. Always comes back to gameplay. Yep. And that's, like I said, that's kind of the thing I've noticed over the years. It's a lot of the time, even a character that should otherwise be popular isn't, due to the gameplay stigma that they have. So if the devs want the unit to sell well, like for instance, if they want to add another Tamamo Lancer banner and they want people to roll for Tamamo Lancer, well, you have roughly 3 categories of people. Category number 1 is Tamamo fans. They are going to roll if they haven't already. Category number 2, non-Tamamo fans who like gameplay more than anything. They are not going to roll. And category number 3 is non-Tamamo fans who maybe aren't a stickler for gameplay. They're still not rolling. Because even the people that are not like hard up about the gameplay of things still have a tendency to value units that perform better. It doesn't mean that they won't roll the unit. It just means that in general, they'll look at that and they'll go like, it's not really worth type deal. So they have a bit of a problem. Like I said, they need to buffer in the sense that if they do so, they'll actually get people to roll for her when a banner rolls around. In the same way that if they do that for Lartoria, they'll actually get people to roll for her when a banner rolls around. I think Vritra is, objectively speaking, in the best position of the 3, but only because Vritra has a party-wide niche, and Vritra is a looper, so you can kind of still just make her function, especially with how strong the arts comps are. Still, her damage will be lackluster compared to some of her other compatriots, particularly her 4-star ones, and therein lies the issue in why Vritra needs something. So, who's left for them to buff for 10th Annie? Well, let me put it to you this way. Whichever one of those 3 doesn't get a buff needs to be buffed at 10th Annie. It's that easy to state. Like, shall I get the scroll? Yes. Yes, Squire, fetch the scrolls. Because, like, again, the issue is, like I said, it's these sort of super meta units that are standing on top. It's why I can look at a unit like Roma, who's a very good, very solid unit, and be like, yeah, that unit could use a buff. Because objectively speaking, if you look at Roma's kit, there's nothing that screams that he needs a buff. His kit's very good. So why then could Roma get a buff? Well, Roma's a 30% charger. Why is he doing less damage than the unit that can literally charge 100%? And also has the ability to morph into a single target or an AoE at their will. So, like, kind of a problem. Buff Fionn to compete with Percival? Just leave Fionn. Chad, do you want more Fionn banners? Do you want more Fionn banners? Because that's how you get them. Black Grail is strong? Yeah. And so it's like, to me, there's two things that need to happen. If you want to, like you can notice this. When I say something is a super meta unit, chat, what makes them super meta? It's usually the ability to start from 0% and function with Black Grail and Oberon. This is a commonality amongst the strongest units in the game. So what do you do to counteract this, chat? How do you balance without nerfing? How many of you guys have actually thought about that? What do you do? You give it to everyone. Okay, so that is a choice. So you can say, okay, well, this unit is super meta because they have the ability to touch Black Grail. Therefore, the solution is to take other units and also allow them to touch Black Grail. Well, that works, but then you end up with the homogeneity argument where everybody is literally using the same setup, right? So it's probably not a good idea, because then it's very much a, do you have Black Grail? Oh, you don't? You stupid peasant. Like literally it becomes a difference between Black Grail havers and not havers, right? Which is still already a thing, but... So, I'm going to say this is a solution. This can't be the only solution. Decrease party cost for nodes. No, because that hurts everybody across the board. Like, it's a thing, but it hurts everybody across the board. Niches. Okay. So your proposal is to make a niche so strong that it allows a unit to damage higher than someone using Black Grail. That works. There's a couple of issues. One is, what happens when the niche isn't in play? And two is, we already kind of have this, and these units are already winning. So do you upgrade the niche? Do you, instead of 150% super effective, it's now a 200%? Like, this is a question that I'm posing to you guys on like a philosophical level, because it's like, what do you do, right? Like, how do you as a game dev handle that? And it's difficult. I think that has to go on a unit per unit basis, and you're going to have to do something. But that is a potential solution. But I'm going to say this is rooted in what probably the other best solution is, which is not this. It's this. You don't really want to meddle too much with niches. You don't really want to sit there and go like, hey, this unit that already has a niche, we're going to upgrade how strong its niche is. What's better is to leave the niche as it is and to upgrade base damage. How do you do that? Well, because like, Cad, you just got done saying this unit can touch Black Grail, therefore it's a super meta unit. So how do you make a unit out damage a unit that can touch Black Grail? I don't know, but this is the way FGO used to work. So there probably needs to be some hard rebalancing in the game to help that. Because the way FGO used to work was a cyclical relationship. Sorry, not cyclical, inverse relationship between damage and charge. So, what do I mean? The more charge you had, the less damage you used to do. And the reason why, and the logic for this, was because of this inverse relationship. These two things are intrinsically related. Usually, having more charge resulted in better CEs. That access to better CEs resulted in more damage. So, a unit that had less charge needed to do more damage because they couldn't touch as good of a CE. And this is the way that FGO remained balanced pretty much until, like, I'm going to say, like, it started happening really in year 5. Year 5, they lost this idea. Year 5, we started getting buster units that could start from 0. Year 5, we got Castoria in that allowed so many of the arts units to start from 0. And it really started to become a really common thing. So instead of more charge equaling less damage, it became more charge, more damage. So when you look at a unit, like, say, Romulus or Karna, and you say, this unit is only a 30% charger, this unit should be dealing way more fucking damage than a Melisson. Way more. Why? Because they can only work with 30% charge. They're not touching Black Grail. So, at that point, this is why I say base damage is how you do this. How do I intend to operate and upgrade base damage? Simple. NP interludes are the strongest indicator of that. Quite literally. You don't want to meddle too much with skills. Like, you can buff skills. The more you meddle with skills, the more you're impacting actual card performance. And you start getting super carders. And you also don't want that, because that's, again, like your equivalent of, like, Super Orion. It's okay to have one Super Orion in the game. It's okay to have maybe a couple Super Orions in the game. It's not okay if everyone's Super Orion. So therein you go like, oh shit, right? They should just make a new Black Grail with 50% starting charge. How would that balance things, though? Because if let's say you put a CE that is Black Grail-like as a 50% C. If you do this, yeah, I mean, it potentially helps stuff, but, I mean, do you make it stronger than Black Grail? That doesn't make any sense, because then every unit that can touch Black Grail can also use that. So it needs to be weaker than Black Grail, but it needs to be stronger than any currently existing 50% C. It's like, okay, I guess you could do that, but then quite literally every other 50% C in the game is defunct by creation of that. So you reduce the nuance of that. I guess you could make it a, like, limited gacha C just like Black Grail is, but then not everybody has it, so it doesn't fix the problem for everybody. There's problems any way you want to do this. And I'm not trying to, like, shit on the idea so much as I'm simply pointing out that there's an upside and a downside to everything. And any attempt at balancing is going to result in a negative effect. So, let's examine that. I just said Roma and Karna are 30% chargers, and they need to be doing more damage than Melisson. How do you do that? Well, let's not even look at the how. Let's look at the what if. What if Roma and Karna do more damage than Mel? What does that cause? Now you've got more power creep. And if you fix every single Lancer to that effect, your Lancers start dealing crazy damage. Now, that in and of itself may not be bad, but then how do you sell the next Lancer to people? And now you're to the crux of the problem, chat. It's this. Power creep exists for money. Lancer's a dead class for new servants. They can never overpower Mellow. And that therein lies the issue too. So if you make them stronger, you cause more power creep, and more power creep just kind of further bloats things and makes this rat race begin all over again. But the flip side is, if you do nothing and you leave Melisson on top, then you have Melisson equals money, and literally any other Lancer equals no money. What do I mean? Well, if you give Melisson a banner, anybody that already has Mel probably doesn't roll unless they want more copies. Anybody that doesn't have Mel rolls because she's the best Lancer. So then if you put any other Lancer in the game and give them a rate up, they immediately do not sell. And the reason why? Because they're not Melisson. See what I mean when I say, like, balance actually does impact this a lot? And, like, don't get me wrong, people do roll for character. People don't necessarily roll entirely for gameplay. But this then puts a much higher burden. This means that any Lancer that comes out has to be, like, the most, like, sexualized and attractive character they can possibly produce to make you roll for them to defeat the point of rolling for gameplay. And, you know, sexual to you, chat, may be something completely else to someone else, and vice versa. So it's like, I'm not saying everything has to be like a gigantic big tits girl, right? Like, it could be, you know, a really like handsome dude or something like that. It's like super charming and like just absolutely hot. And that'll get like all your women to roll. And then like, hey, then you do the really big tits Lancer and stuff. It's like, you can do that, but you have an inherent problem. That inherent problem is that this is the default. This is the default state. And you are cashing checks constantly to get other people to roll for this. Bichon didn't sell? Yeah, I mean, I can flat out tell you Bichon didn't sell well. I can flat out tell you she did not sell well. And there's a couple of factors that go into that. Part of that is, frankly speaking, gameplay wise, she's not bad, but she's definitely made for more challenge content. She's a unit that requires a wind up. Players don't want to deal with that. The other issue at play there is, I think some people didn't much care for her design. I think the other issue on top of that is Elson exists. And I think people just sit there and they go like, I don't need it. And, oh, hey, look, now we have all of these other banners that are currently on rate up for every other class. So why the heck would I roll a Lancer that I'm unsure of? So I think that was the biggest issue right there. I think Bichon did absolutely not sell well. And my support list kind of would validate that. It basically negates half the potential players who would have paid. Yep. So this is why, like, chat, if this is Mel, and this is, like, let's say Karna, what do you think sells better? This arrangement? Or one where Karna's like this good? Both of these units sell based off their popularity and their gameplay. But if you take this out of the equation, only one of these units sells. And guess what will almost always result in more money? 2 units selling well will almost always result more in 1 unit selling well than in 1 unit selling well. And the reason why is because there will be overlap. A person that likes Karna might also roll for Mel. A person that likes Mel might also roll for Karna, if the performance is decently close. Where you don't roll is when you have a super variant of a unit, and you go, well, that unit's so strong, I'll never use another unit. It's the truth. Now, I think there's a decent argument to be made about how, like, yeah, that may be a thing, but that may also be a thing due to the game's progress over the years. If you think back, chat, before we only used to have grailing to 100. Now we have grailing to 120. Now we have a pins. Now we have class score. Start thinking about that. You start going like, man, yeah, my variant of the unit's so damn strong. Why would I ever bother to invest in another unit? So you end up in a weird point where some of this is just actual game design flaw. They've allowed us to customize our units so far that if you have a favorite and you customize it, you logically don't roll for anyone else. And so this then means that the developers have a point at which players will become entrenched and not willing to roll. This is the truth, though, for every single gacha game ever in existence. This is not unique to FGO. Every gacha game suffers from this. Every gacha game suffers from the idea of, this character is my favorite. I really like them. I have really enhanced them. I am not rolling this other character. Grand Servant soon, TM? Yeah, we'll talk about that. Speaking of which, it's getting it's already 9:22 because I am slow. So let's chat. Let's go over some of the news. Also gotta excuse me, go over the buffs with you guys. Okay, yeah, I guess we'll start with this. So Gouda Gouda got announced, if you guys hadn't already seen. It's the rerun of Gouda 6. Now, I've seen a lot of people be like, well, wait, hold on, why are they rerunning this? There's a couple of reasons why. Number one, Gouda Gouda did not get an event last year on JP. Literally, first time ever, Gouda Gouda, no event. So we're getting a rerun of this now because they're probably not ready to do a new Gouda Gouda, in part. But I think there's a couple other factors here. Among them is we have Ordeal Call 4 on the horizon. Ordeal Call 4 almost assuredly deals with rulers. We know that for a fact. So, interestingly enough, our only welfare Avenger is Ranmaru. And Ranmaru had not been part of the Evocation Festival yet. So we get an announcement that this is happening starting on April 2nd. And that at the end of April, we're also going to get an Evocation Fest before Ordeal Call 4. That Evocation Fest will include Ranmaru. So you're going to have the ability to get Ranmaru from the rerun. And if somehow you miss that, or at least permanently in addition later, you will have the capacity to be able to get Ranmaru so that everybody has something to be able to use in the new Ordeal Call. So therein lies the issue. They had to provide some sort of welfare way to be able to get through story, because I think the devs have learned nowadays, if they don't, people will whine and moan and complain and never get through. So therein lied the issue. The good news is, like I said, they're making Ranmaru permanent, and that definitely helps things out. But it also seems to imply that Ordeal Call 4 is very likely to have a super ruler mechanic where if you don't take a proper counter class, it's going to get really nasty for you. We'll have to see how it is, but that is sort of how Ordeal Call 2 worked to an extent. And even to a lesser extent, Ordeal Call 3. Did they get rid of the Heian-kyo clear requirement? Yes, the clear requirement changed to Fuyuki only for the rerun, and apparently some of the stuff is nerfed. I saw Trubs talk about this on Twitter. So, they changed it. The event is now easier. It's a light version of the event, as a rerun normally is. But definitely interesting. Yeah, they added lower nodes, and apparently they also added a 90++ variant for the event as well. So, definitely going to be interesting in that regard. I'm happy to have it, and I think this is also, we were wondering what the devs were going to do to fill this gap period between CBC, and Ordeal Call 4. And we didn't know what. Now we know. So I had a whole lot of theories. The theories were pretty decent, but they ended up not being true because this is what they went with. A rerun should have been on my mind. Let's talk with Avalon about this morning, but I'm surprised neither of us picked up on this, because this is actually, if you go back to last year when they did the first rerun on JP, it does look like they're using the reruns to stall and pad for time. And frankly, I'm okay with that. I would rather them do the occasional rerun than to never do a rerun ever again at all. Because I understand why they don't want to do reruns that often, but doing it at least some is a good thing. I think it helps people, again, get access to things that they maybe missed out on. This event had not had its rerun, so it's really, really nice that they did this. Yeah, I think it is. I think it's absolutely planned. They knew they had Ordeal Call 4. They knew they needed something else to fill time, so they just said, boom, here you go. Here's a rerun. Here's Ranmaru, then Ordeal Call 4. And then, chat, pretty much after Ordeal Call 4, you're going to immediately get the Grand System. You're going to be distracted by that. You're going to go into the early parts of summer there, of which will already be in like anniversary mode at that point. So it'll definitely be interesting to see. I'm actually going to pull up my YouTube community post, because I've been doing more community posts on YouTube, chat. And basically what I did for today is I basically did a giant like recap of the weekend and everything that y'all missed. So we got the 2 upgrades for Alexander and Martha. I'll go over those in a minute. Yeah, so we did get the Evocation Festival announcement. Let me see if I have a link for that. Oh, Trubs apparently thinks the Lancer buff's going to be Bryn. That's not it. I think this is the actual news post. I think it's buried in here. Yep. Be added to the distribution server that can be obtained with Spirit Wandering leaves at Spirit Wandering Festival, scheduled to be held late April. So, excuse me. Again, after Gouda 6 comes out here with the rerun, they're basically going to have another Evocation Festival and permanently add Ranmaru. I do wonder who else is going to be paired in with that. There's only a couple that we're missing now at this point. So it's definitely interesting in that regard. I'm trying to remember exactly who we've got up. Because they've added a bunch at this point. I could see Tai Sui. Tai Sui is one of the oldest ones. I think that's not in. Didn't they add Ruler Vinci? Or is she still not in yet? Honestly, do you think it could be Lancer Ryoma? No. I think if they do Lancer Ryoma here, like, I wouldn't have been angry before, but now that we know that they're rerunning Gouda 6, it won't be Lancer Ryoma. Because if they waste this on Lancer Ryoma when they have Gouda 6 that they could buff him during, I would be upset. I sent you the image? Okay, yeah, let me look. Yeah, so DVR's prime candidate at this point. Ronmaru's coming in. I feel like Tai Sui's another good one because the exact same logic of, hey, we want that like AoE alter ego available for people. Eliza, and honestly, like, it could realistically be, I'd say, like, anyone from this bunch. I'm not expecting anyone from this group. These are all either new or don't necessarily fit. You could maybe say Gouda Gouda here for this. So I could be okay with that. Could also be Nobukatsu. Yeah, that's true too. Because they actually did add Bunyan in the end. But like I said, I'd expect people on this half of the line. Don't expect anybody on this. So at that point, I think jury's out. If they want to go Gouda Gouda centric, it'd probably be at least these two. If they want to go age, it's going to be, again, like in this area. And then if they want to go file relevancy, Satanta's coming back because they just dusted off his files for NA. But either way, definitely an interesting one. And this pretty much shows you guys that we are exactly like, here's your 2-year mark right here. So everybody on this side of the line still hasn't shown up yet on NA. Everybody on this side of the line has already been out. So everybody basically left of Satanta is 2 years or greater without being added to the Evocation Festival. Now, at least with Da Vinci, she has been added back basically in her rerun that they held last year, but that's still not permanent status. So, which is interesting because we're basically going to be getting her and Rodmaru here via the event and then immediately getting added to the Evocation Festival. So it's definitely solid. Okay, and then we also got the announcement on the God, what was it, chat? The freaking ordeal call for release and the grand system, but anyone got a link to that? Because that one I don't have. I think that was posted a while back. Yeah, let me open it up and see. Yeah, the pre-campaign, which is interesting, chat. It looks like we will be giving out more of the reset tickets for Pure Prisms. They have not given those out other than the original 3 that they gave. So this is them giving another 3. Like I said, they're going to give these out very sparingly. This is the first time in months they've given them out again, and I'm not surprised by that. Because that is what allows you to reset the Pure Prism shop. Darty, thank you for the 74. Appreciate it, my dude. How you doing? The grand system stuff. Yeah, that's what I was really looking for. But again, this is basically scheduled, if memory serves, for what, like late April, like right at the ass end of April is Ordeal Call for. And then we ended up getting the Grand Graph release schedule. And I've already seen people be really fucking stupid about this. I don't know how else to describe it to you guys other than, like, people are getting almost nonsensically upset I think this is another issue of people just not having a whole lot to do and them kind of stewing in their own filth, and they just kind of get really angry and ornery about things that really don't matter that much. I do think it's okay to maybe look at this and say, hey, doing it class by class is suboptimal and kind of stally and baity of them. But I don't think it's really that big of a deal. And I'm going to explain why. There's really not content here. Like, yes, you will apparently have to do quests to unlock these, but that's it. Like, it's not like that you're going to get like a story chapter released with every single one of these, and it's going to be like some big major ordeal. I'd expect at this point it's probably going to be something akin to like the Bleached Earth challenge fights and like Olga quest and stuff like that. That's just kind of how they've been conducting things, so I just assume this is exactly what it is. Personally, I like seeing that they have a plan for this and that they're going to be kind of measuring it to some extent. We know that it will be releasing in the order as displayed, so it's going to go Saber, then Berserker, then Lancer, then Rider, then Assassin, Archer, and Caster. And interestingly enough, only the Saber one do we have the date for. It's going to be sometime in May. They literally put a question mark over the top of the Berserker one, so you don't know when the Berserker one's coming. And then, yes, I have technically blocked it out, but they also have Extra 1 and Extra 2 as question marks. I'm going to say this is either the worst bait imaginable, and the devs should absolutely be reamed over this, or what is far more likely the case is, chat, this is confirmation you will at least be able to grant one extra class of each of the two major archetypes. So I suspect that means you'll have 2 extra class grands, but you're going to have to get really selective with that. And that is, again, at a later date and unconfirmed, so it is what it is. But to me, the way I choose to believe this is the dev's sneaky way of saying, yeah, you'll be able to do this at least once. So again, I'm going to be able to do 1 unit from each of these classes. So don't expect to be able to be like, oh, well, they're all going to be 1 class. I did see some people saying that they're disappointed that that's not the case. That has never been stated to be the case. And literally from the origin, they told you a grand of each class. So I don't know why people were thinking that you were going to be able to do like 7 berserkers, right? Like, obviously, they're not going to let you do that. The devs are not that stupid. They know. So it is what it is. And like I said, I saw people really upset about that. I don't really understand why people were getting so upset. I did see some people saying like, well, hey, what if I don't have a unit of this class that I want to grant? You just simply don't do it then. I don't think this sort of thing is going to be required all that much. I don't think you necessarily have to. And if you do, do it. And at that point, if you feel like you're locked in, maybe if enough people complain, there will be some way to switch it. Or maybe the devs are just that smart and they already have preempted you and allow you to like, well, as long as you go through the quests again, you can switch it or something like that. So I'm not super worried about it. Yeah, again, like we basically have 7 classes. This starts in May, which is the 5th month. So you'll be able to be done by the end of the year. And I think that fits because, chat, what are we dealing with in Ordeal Call? The extra classes. What's ending this year? Ordeal Call. So then that would be why you can grant the extra classes afterwards. It makes sense to me. I don't think that's that crazy. Like, that could be me just talking out my ass, but I think that's very logical for how that will likely flow. Now, like I said, I've seen people get really upset and say that this is stalling. I'm gonna say, if you really want to criticize the devs for stalling, I really don't want to hear from you anymore at this. And the reason why is because I have seen people criticize this that I know for a fact did not criticize Road to 7. Literally, like, all the years where we had dead content, dead time, that the devs were absolutely stalling and plugging everything to stall. And you want to get upset now? At this? No. That's just stupid. I mean, yes, it is a stall, but, like, guys, how are we complaining about stalling in year 10 of the game? They've been doing it since, like, year 4 of the game. It's 6 years now. It's like, this isn't the sudden, like, point at which you should choose the hill to die on. This is not a hill worth battling on at all. Quite literally, we have had so much stall leading up to this that if they want to go month by month on this, who cares? That's great. That's fine. That's perfectly A-okay with me. They literally are giving you a banner for every single unit prior to the release of this system. So if you don't have anybody that you want to use in this system, that is your fault. Like, that clearly means that you sat there and you willfully neglected trying to roll for a unit that would have helped you out and worked well in this system. You just simply did not want to advance the account or whatever. And chat, there is no harm in taking longer. There is nothing that says, like, oh, well, the Saber class comes out right here in May, so I have to do it right here in May. Literally nothing. Like, maybe by the end of the year, that might be your deadline, right? Like, if there's some sort of mechanic involved with the end of ordeal call stuff that requires grands, yeah, maybe then you have to. But that means you have 7 months to do something about it. And worst comes to worst, you can just pick one of the units you do have. So it's like, I've seen people be like, oh, I don't have anyone. And I'm like, if you're a new person, that's fine. I get that. You're probably somebody, though, that shouldn't be at the point of worrying about this system, even. Or, odds are, you're a veteran that willfully neglected rolling someone of that entire class, at which point you have no one to blame but yourself. And if you're just trying to say, well, I have nobody that I care about, then it doesn't matter. You don't care about any of them. It's probably not a case of you missing anybody from that class. It's probably a case of you don't give a shit about that class. So at the end of the day, that's fine. I don't have that problem. I have the reverse problem, chat. I can only grand one of the sabers. Shit. Like, I have too many to use. That's my problem, okay? I envy you. If you don't have anyone, or you only have like one unit, damn, must be nice. Because I got too many to pick from here. Units that I have invested in over the years that, like, God, are you really going to put a gun to my head and make me make a choice? Ugh. So again, they're going to be starting with a Saber class that starts in May. Like I said, in summary, I don't think this is that big of a deal to get upset about. I think this system's actually really cool. I think the bigger question mark for me isn't any of this. It's not even this. It's all of this. What happens after we end Ordeal Call? And, like, will this system ever come into play ever again? That's what I want to know. that's where I'm going to be like, hey, does any of this actually matter? Because if it's just a one-off thing for the end of ordeal call, then it's cool and all, but like there's no like staying power to the system, and it just is going to be kind of a one and done. So at that point, yeah, I really want to know what they have planned for after the end of ordeal call. Like I said, if they are doing something with the extra classes after the end, maybe that's an indication. So again, special battles will be held in sequence to challenge Grand Servants in accordance with the release of the Grand Graph. To participate in the special battles, you must organize a Grand Servant of the target class. And when you clear them, you can collect items necessary to strengthen the Grand Servant. Strengthen the servants who are candidates for the Grand Servant of the target class and meet the following conditions. Level 100 or higher, all skills possessed at level 10, excluding appends. And in the special battles, other party members will also challenge only servants of the target class. There are multiple difficulty levels, such as high difficulty, super high difficulty, and super, super high difficulty. And you can fight more advantageously by strengthening the class score of the target class. We plan to add a method to reset part of the class score only once. Well, that's nice. So I do like that they're at least going to let us reset and re-choose a class score mechanic. But only once may be the problem. Because for me, at least, I have several of the classes leveled up. But, I mean, it seemingly would indicate that you're really going to want all 7 base classes as the ones that are leveled up, which is definitely not what I've done, and definitely not what a lot of people have done, because a lot of people have been focusing over here. So this may be a little bit of a life hack for NA, as before the ordeal call class score stuff comes out on NA. This may be them tipping their hand that you want to focus more on the base classes, but definitely be interested to see. Again, I think there's a lot we can read into this. It does seem like there's going to be challenge fights for it. I think my greater question is going to be like, are these challenge fights actually going to be clearable by like every unit? Because like, I mean, chat, let's say we get to like this point, and I'm just that rare individual that goes, I want Grand Benkei. Is Benkei going to be able to clear the like hardest version of the fight? Because, like, that's going to cause some problems. And that's going to make the balance situation in FGO really come to a head if that's what the requirement is. So that, I'm way more concerned about that than any quote-unquote issues with the system itself. Like, just saying. All units are not created equal in this game. So as long as units can get through it and it is a defeatable battle, I'm okay with it. But if this is a case of like you have to use the Grand Servant and the Grand Servant maybe is not necessarily strong enough to make it through, what are the devs going to tell you? That you should choose a different Grand? Like, kind of defeats the point of being able to choose. So I'm not sure how I feel about this. I think the base fight will be fine. Yeah, I guess the real question is the super high and super high difficulty going to require completion, or is it just it's there for the extra challenge? If that's the case, then we're fine. But if it's like, oh, your servant is even more grand because you did the super high version, then we're in trouble as well. So I hope the devs aren't that stupid. Usually they're pretty smart about that sort of stuff. They make extra high difficulty content way more of an optional thing, but definitely something to be concerned with. Again, special battles will be held for each class starting in May. You have to have cleared the prologue, which makes sense. So that probably means, chat, that it'll be happening in the Bleached Earth area. Select and organize Grand Servants of the target class. I can't read this because it is an infographic. I believe it's just stating what the requisites are for a servant to become grand. Interestingly enough, there doesn't seem to be any sort of indication on the screen for a unit being a grand, and I can see why, because they're not yet. But there's also not a like button or prompt or anything that's new to be like, hey, yeah, make them a grand. So this is going to be somewhere else in the interface, I suspect. And this is just them showing you basic palingenesis. But definitely intriguing. I'm excited for this system. I think it could be really cool. I think it could be really awesome depending on the way that they do it. I'm not going to be a Debbie Downer like other people. I think this could actually be a really awesome thing and allow you to, yet again, further like customize your account and say like, hey, look, this is my grand. In fact, I think that should be a really cool, awesome thing where like on a support list or something like that, it should show like, hey, like maybe give the unit a unique border or something and be like, this is a grand variant. Whether or not it matters, just for bragging rights, if nothing else. Oh, Jekyll and Hyde. Jekyll probably counts based off his base class. I would assume any unit like him that can transform will work based off their base, rather than whatever they can transform into. But we also don't know, like, for instance, with class score, I believe Jekyll and Hyde uses both assassin and berserker class scores. So when he's in assassin form, he's the assassin one, and when he's in berserker, I believe he uses the berserker one. So who knows? Who knows what they would do? Are they going to have to give out more grails to allow easier access to Grand Grass? So it's interesting that you said that, because guess what, chat? Even if you've already done the rerun here for Gouda 6, you can still get a grail this time around. So even if you already got the grail last time, you can get another grail this time. So that's a first. Give me more grails? Yep. Huh? Why? Don't know. I think they just looked at it as a, like, it doesn't really matter, and they're just trying to incentivize people to do the rerun. So that's why. And then, yeah, we have the Lancer upgrade tomorrow. The only other bit of news, chat, was literally what just happened earlier that we talked about. This was JP's this is JP's April Fool's game. It is literally Vampire Survivors. You can see there's even like some Castlevania vibes that it's given off. But it is apparently already over as of this. And you can see it's definitely that similar sort of like bullet hell like style of game, including new Rio art. Everybody's just going to get 10 quartz for it for logging in. There's a start dash campaign, a comeback campaign. A lot of this is just Spring Master Aid stuff. Oh, is it a separate app? Yeah, they usually release it like that. Do you need the album with all the artworks? Yes. yes, I do. I require it. Excellent, thank you. The Bakian art is great. Yeah, I'm not going to sit there and go through every single one of them, but there's definitely some funny ones. Magi Records were the very best of all games. Sad about it. The game was fun? Yeah, I'm sure it was. I mean, again, like, this is where when I look at stuff like this, I'm like, I'm actually surprised they don't just do their own version of this. Like, there's like chat. Their Vampire Survivors came out, it was hugely popular, and then immediately we had like the Hollow Live version of it, and that was also popular. So I'm like, I'm surprised more IPs don't either partner with Vampire Survivors or make their own variant, because it's a very similar game. Very simple game to develop, I suspect. So I could say for Ordeal Call 4. Yeah, I mean, in that regard, it's definitely a case of it being a close call, and I'm really just not sure that they're actually going to get people to roll on anything that they bring up here. I'm sure they'll try, but you got Ordeal Call 4 coming around the edge of the bend, and then after that, again, you're headed towards like 10th Annie. I mean, chat, who do y'all think the 10th Annie unit's gonna be? I don't know, but like probably someone big, right? So a Saber, I'd love that. Goetia? Yeah, I mean, like, there's any number of things. So, like, at the end of the day, am I gonna roll Gouda 6? No, I'm not. Fate Stay Day, who? I want to say a Saberface. I would be really happy if it's a Saberface. We had Castoria for Annie 5. So it's like if Annie 10 is another like Artoria variant, I'd be through the moon. Through the roof, over the moon, you know. Through the moon. Beast Artoria for Annie. I mean, there's definitely a way you could do something like that. So it'd be either way. I don't really care how they do it, but I would love it. Lion Saber hasn't been added yet. Listen, stop, chat. You're only gonna get me excited. All right, let's do the buffage. Dude. One critical security bug has been fixed. It's time to update. No, it's not. Stop giving me shit-ass pop-ups, Google Chrome. Jesus Christ, you are asking for me to delete you. It's been doing that. I think it's like some stupid setting or something. Abino Same? I mean, that is definitely not outside the realm of possibility. Anything is possible for 10th Annie chat. And I feel like I need to stress that. Anything is possible for 10th Annie. Hey Aaron, how's it going? Did Bob send you the meme that I sent him? All right, who do I want to start with? I guess we start with Xang Yu. FGO Classic? Oh god, please don't give them that idea. It would be interesting though. I feel like there would be some people that would go back and play. Like I would definitely go back and play FGO Classic. That nostalgia would live very shortly, but I would definitely go back and play it. And I'm not sure that I would spend any money on it. So, but I would definitely do it just for the nostalgia bait and literally just to like show people how things were back then. 4 corpses and all. No, God, no. No back button. The back button changed nothing, chat. You still scuff. Back button, most useless quality of life. I joke. The back button's absolutely valuable. OG waiver kit. Yep. Okay. What am I listening to? Top Gear. Okay. Good CAD, yes. No 2 times speed. Yeah, that would be pain. That would be actual pain. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's start off with Xang Yu as we recap the buffs that happened over the weekend. Obviously, tomorrow we've got the Lancer one. That's the big one that I'm hopeful for, but we'll have to wait and see. So Xang Yu got an upgrade. He was the Berserker that I kind of picked for this. I was telling people he's just not in a good state. He still isn't, frankly. They kind of got it right with him, but not really. And to be fair, what they did is they came in and they gave Xang Yu an NP interlude. So originally his Noble Phantasm just dealt damage to all enemies. It was a quick AoE Noble Phantasm, 5 hits, crappy NP gain, so he did not actually get a whole lot of refund. And his Overcharge effect increased NP damage for 1 turn 20%. But they come in, they upgrade it, and they add Ignore Defense to it. Definitely nice since he does actually have Invuln Pierce in his kit. So now he ignores any sort of attempt to try and defend against him, and quite literally is going to carve through even defense buffs and things like that. So definitely a nice thing for him to have. This makes him a relatively unstoppable Berserker, but not gonna be your like go-to looper type of guy. They did also increase his own critical damage by 50% for 3 turns activating first, which I have to say is proof that the devs still don't get it. I'm sorry, like, yes, this is a really, really strong thing to add, but Xang Yu already had critical damage for 1 turn on his first skill of 100%. Xang Yu also had critical damage on his second skill for 50%. So what are you doing, devs? You've given 1 unit 200% crit damage. And they're already a quick unit that stacks with Scotty that also has 100% crit damage in their kits. So, like, huh? You're turning him into a crit monster. So, the case that I'm going to make here for Xang Yu and why the devs still don't get it is this is literally an Iskandar or an Altera situation all over again. You see, the issue with Xang Yu is he's not very easily usable. He's not very loopable. That appears to be how the devs wish to differentiate him from other sort of more prolific Berserkers. But frankly, that just makes him bad. In a meta where every Berserker seems capable of looping, Xang Yu is really the odd man out. And yes, you can force a 3-turn out of him. It's just not a very pretty one, as it usually involves double Oberon. So, to me, this is a really, really just weird thing to do with him. I get that the way to fix Xang Yu's looping probably doesn't start with his Noble Phantasm. So in that regard, that's fine. But stacking more crit damage on the Berserker that already had the most crit damage before this buff is kind of stupid. Just saying. So, yes, it's a good upgrade. It absolutely helps him. But I really wonder what the devs are thinking with this, as they're just pushing him further down one trick. And then when they finally do come back years later and give this man some sort of charge skill or something like that, they're going to regret it. Because he is going to become quite the monster when they do. It's the same thing they did with Altera. It's the same thing they did with Iskandar. They, for years, tried to avoid giving the unit the thing that they actually needed. And then they kind of made that unit into a monster when they finally caved. It's going to happen here with Xang Yu in the future. So right now, he's still in a really weird spot, but this is definitely an odd upgrade. Obviously, he got the standard amount of NP damage upgrade, where NP2 became his NP1 and NP5 became his NP2. So his new numbers here are definitely solid. And he reduces all enemies' defense by 20% for 3 turns after damage goes out. So following up carding and critting, it's just going to hit harder. So definitely a nice thing in that regard. It did not touch his overcharge at all. It could have been something that maybe would have helped out damage output wise, but I'm going to say damage output's not really his biggest issue. It's quite literally his ability to function in a conventionally set up, like, 3-turn environment. Don't get me wrong, you can still take him into challenge content. You can still make him do pretty solid work, and he's definitely going to crit like an insane man, but he is a horse. And the horse, of course, here is going to have problems with being able to be kept alive and being able to be fed stars. He does at least have the critical star absorption on the first skill there. It definitely helps him out. But the issue at play with his other crit buffs here is they are both 1 turn. So if you sync everything up, if the stars literally align, he will pop off, but only for that 1 turn. So therein lied the problem with this. I definitely like the NP interlude. It's a good thing that he has it. Helps give him some staying power when compared to the other Berserkers. But I look at kind of what they did with the NP, and I just really question what the devs are thinking by giving this man even more crit damage. So let me know what you guys think about the Xang Yu buff, and if you think this will actually impact your desire to use him more. But still, in the meantime, let's go ahead and let's talk about refund scenarios for Xang Yu. So on screen now, you guys should be able to see the actual refund numbers for Xang Yu. He's got sort of 2 scenarios, one against just about every class, and the other against Berserkers, because Berserkers are really terrible to loop against, which is ironic since he's a Berserker himself. And if you look in scenario 1 at basically 3 out of 15 overkill hits, we're assuming a 3 enemy wave. We are assuming a singular hit on each of them, and that hit kills. And that's how you're getting the 3 hits of overcharge. In that scenario, Xang Yu with a double Summer Scotty setup refunds 21%, almost 22%. Not great. If you're looking at him at a maxed out 15 out of 15 possible hits being overkill, which means every single hit, literally the very first hit on each enemy, killed the enemy, which is highly unlikely to happen. Even in that scenario, Xang Yu only refunds 30% at best. So odds are you're not hitting that nice 30% breakpoint. Instead, you're going to be looking at Xang Yu refunding 20% most of the time. He's in dire need of like a charge kill or something like that. Or again, just trying to maybe crit after the fact with his cards. But again, he's not really somebody that's known for card performance too much outside of critting. And he doesn't really have arts cards, so to speak, just the 1. So at this point, he's kind of in a weird spot for how he should be handled. Things like the Mighty Chain definitely help him, but he's gonna need access to that arts card to help him out, which is probably going to come from somebody else not named Xang Yu. And if you're up against triple Berserker, then even 3 out of 15 overkill hits won't get you to the 20%. You're going to be looking somewhere more in the realm of like 8 to 9 hits probably in order to hit that 20% breakpoint. And that's not solid. That literally means that more than half of his hits have to be overkill in order for you to even get to 20% refund. Again, if he can get even 10%, he can be somebody that can manage to be able to, 3-turn with double Oberon, but none of these numbers are exactly good enough to make him work in a traditional double Scotty system. So therein lies Xang Yu's problem. Talking about his actual charge scenario here and how you would use him in a proper composition. Now you guys are going to see on screen here Xang Yu in a 3-turn and him going up against a 3/3x Berserker node. In this scenario, you got to use double Oberon. So you're going to start out the front line here with 1 Summer Scotty and 1 Oberon with another Oberon on the back end. he's going to need either a maxed out append and normal K-scope or a super scope to start out with. He's going to get all of the Summer Scotty's first and second buff there. That way he actually has a little bit of steroid to help him out. And he's going to have to just fire off the NP with just that. So damage is not going to be too good round one. Then his refund will only be about 13% just from having a single Scotty. From there, you're going to be looking at using her charge skill. That is going to bring him up to about 60%, 63%, somewhere in there. And you're going to rotate her out for the other Oberon and pop both of the Oberon's first skills. That should bring him up to 100% charge, since they're 20% each. And he should be able to fire off a second MP with a little bit more firepower. That should refund yet another 13% there. And then for the final wave, we're going to pop both Oberon's second and third skills on Xang Yu. Maybe throw in the Mystic Code attack buff and fire off the NP one more time. Again, damage not going to be too good in a composition like this. Wave 1 and Wave 2 really just not going to be solid until you get to Wave 3 with the Oberon steroids kind of beginning to pop off with him and work with that overcharge buff that he has. Otherwise, damage output, not going to be too solid. Though admittedly, the NP buff will help. Next up here, we've got Xang Yu's raw numbers. So this is just his damage under his own power. This is neutral damage. No sort of external buffs being applied to him, just his own skills and literally a neutral damage environment, which Berserkers almost never hit. So in that regard, you can basically take all of these numbers and multiply it by 1.5 times, and therein lies your Berserker modifier. So looking at this, he deals about 31, almost 32k now in terms of having that NP interlude. That's not too terrible, especially since we're going to be, like I said, multiplying that by 1.5 times. You're looking somewhere north of 45k for his damage output. And at NP5, you can get him all the way up to almost 48k. So definitely a lot better number there, but not something either that a lot of people will feel the need to roll for a much higher NP level of Xang Yu. At least not until he gets buffed. Taking a look at his actual damage now in a proper composition, we can see here that we have two possibilities. The one at the bottom here is going to be Xang Yu in his old composition before his buff. Quite literally, it's the exact same comp. It's just him without the NP interlude numbers. And you can see at NP1 here, Wave 1's only about 49k. Wave 2 at 74k, almost 75. And then Wave 3 at 145k. So nothing too terrible. NP2 will bump those numbers up quite a bit. But if you remember what I said before, NP2, when you get an NP interlude, becomes the same number as NP1. We can actually see that reflected here, as if you look at the old numbers, the NP2 number at 66k here becomes the new NP1 number at 66k after the NP interlude. So that does give him a nice sizable bump up. And again, it's going to be pretty solid in terms of giving him a little bit more firepower for that early wave, that second wave, and allowing him to pop off a little bit harder on Wave 3. The issue is going to be having to brute force him, having to use something like a K-scope. You're very likely to, even after this NP interlude, just get way more firepower out of using another more optimized Berserker for farming purposes. These sorts of things come down to, well, it may be what you can get away with, but at the end of the day, it's probably not worth using Xang Yu for 3-turn farming. He's going to find his niche way more in being able to crit things to death and maybe being a unit that you kind of feed the stars to in order to allow that to happen. Let me know, again, what you guys think about Xang Yu's buff. All right, we'll cut there. And next up, we're going to have Alexander. Oh no, I get that abandoned. I think my biggest issue is like, then what is his niche? Like that's honest to God my issue with Xang Yu. He has no real niche. Like, it's just, I feel bad for him a little bit because I do think his design's really cool. And to me, what Xang Yu should have been, he should have been the 5-star Lancelot Berserker. That's what the community expected him to be, but he was neutered from day one to never be able to become that. So I feel like that's what they're eventually going to take him to, and we'll just have to see. Him and Bradamante suffered from being post Scotty. Yeah, and he, to me, honestly, he suffered way more than Bradamante has. It's already too late. It's never too late. Okay. All right. Next up here, we have the Alexander buff. And Alexander's been another interesting one because, honestly, as a low-star rider, he's actually a pretty serviceable unit. He's always had very good AoE damage for a 3-star, and he's definitely outshone Medusa, who's his primary competition in that regard, for a long time. Now, we have Red Hair in the game, and honestly, Red Hair probably could have used the buff way more than Alexander, but Alexander, at this point, just kind of rolling around as top dog for the AoE riders. So again, damage output pretty good. He had his charm fixed in the past. But what they did is they came back in and fixed his first skill, his charisma. This used to just be a standard party-wide attack up for 3 turns of 16%, and then they changed it. They upped it to the nice even 20% for 3 turns, but they added party-wide critical damage for 3 turns of an additional 30%, kind of leaning into some of his more supportive aspects, and then also granting him a self 20% charge that doesn't scale with the skill. So you just get this automatically. You don't have to level the skill all the way up if you don't want to. And again, with him being a quick unit instead of a buster unit, we don't care too much necessarily about the cooldown unless we're taking him into a scenario where he's going to have to get back to it. So this is a really, really nice upgrade for him all around. It's just going to enhance his damage ever so slightly. It's going to help him buff the party, and it's going to help him be able to 3-turn, something he really couldn't do before now. I mean, he could, but his issue primarily was having to work in a double Oberon type of setup. And yes, that is something that can be done, but that's something that can be done by almost every single quick unit in the game. It doesn't make him special, and if anything, it was one of the things kind of holding him back. Now, obviously, post this buff, there still may be some scenarios where that has to happen. It may not be that his sort of NP gain rate is enough for him to be able to work in a better, more proper system. One thing's for certain, he's almost definitely going to require double Oberon if the node isn't just a standard 3-3-3 setup. Also, if the node has something like Berserkers in it, probably not going to work out for him well. Where he's really going to find value is in a node where, say, now all of a sudden you're facing casters, his true counter class, and you're literally just going to find, you know, them being very good for his MP gain. Maybe it's a 3-3 type of setup node where the last wave doesn't matter, but the first 2 waves are 3 units each. That's where he's really going to shine. He's going to be able to work in a very conventional setup like that, and be able to now, with this buff, work with double Summer Scotty, as opposed to being restricted to just double Oberon. So again, I do think this buff is a very small thing, but it does help him out quite a bit. It's going to help him work out in sort of multiple damage dealer setups as well, since it'll give him a little bit of charge on top of his append to maybe be able to function from a better starting charge standpoint, get a little bit of damage, take out a wave, or, like we mentioned before, act as the actual devoted looper. So taking a look at Alexander's new refund scenarios here, we can see that basically the refund itself will not have changed from the old part, but what will have changed for him is the charge scenario. So as we look at this against caster enemies with a 3-wave setup, he will basically, at 3 out of 3 overkill hits, only be able to refund 12%. But at 0 out of 3, he's only going to refund 8%. What you need is 9%. You actually need that 9% so that it'll round up for you. That, paired with his 20% charge, will give him refund on a particular given wave of 30%, which is enough to work with something like, say, Oberon. Obviously, the rest of the waves, you're probably going to have to brute force, but this can work. The idea is going to be hitting that nice 9% breakpoint. Where that's going to be on different enemies may kind of fluctuate around. So if you're looking at that sort of scenario, it is what it is. But again, remember, against 3 enemies, he's a single hit Noble Phantasm. So 3 out of 3 overkill hits, whereas we might look at other units and say this is impossible for them to get max overkill hits, he's only got the 1 hit. So if he does kill the wave, he gets 3 out of 3 overkill hits. So that is what you're going to be aiming for, is for him not to low roll and for him to actually get every hit being overkill. I'm going to say maybe if there's like a single high health enemy against casters, it might still work out for him, because he might get down to 2 out of 3 overkill hits, and that might still be that 9% to allow you to round up. But that's kind of the worst case scenario for him. So in that regard, against casters, perfectly fine. Against neutral classes, he's looking at quite literally 6% if he doesn't get any overkill hits, maybe 7% there, and only 10% if he gets all 3, which is, again, just assuming he kills the wave. So, still doable, but definitely a little bit more on the line. And then if we're up against Berserkers, at 3 out of 3 overkill hits, he cannot get even to 9%. So you really don't want to use him if the node has too many Berserkers in it. That's going to require you instead to work with him, maybe with that double Oberon setup, so that you can brute force it. Because otherwise, getting even the 10% charge, not a guaranteeable thing. And you got to hope at this point that it's not a full Berserker wave and setup, because that'll really hamper him. In a weird way, even that 10% matters in his case. If you're super worried about being able to hit this, maybe try to like finagle things in such a way that you can get him a little bit more NP gain somehow, or allow him to maybe card after the fact. Either one of those two things could help him out, but unfortunately there's no getting more overkill out of this, because he's already maxed out at 3 out of 3 hits. Taking a look at his actual charge scenarios then, as we've already mentioned, if it's neutral or caster, he can work with double Summer Scotty as a loadout, as opposed to Oberon and double Oberon. So this is much better of a scenario for him. Now, he will be having to start out either with a maxed out mana loading and normal K-scope, or a super scope with no mana loading whatsoever. Both of those things will work for him. The mana loading still probably a pretty decent one, at least to unlock on him, since at minimum, like we said, this will allow him to work in some sort of like multiple damage dealer setup. But what you're going to do, you're going to start out turn 1 with him already maxed out on charge. You're going to pop both the Summer Scotty first and second buffs on him, and then quite literally allow him to fire off the NP already. From there, he will refund approximately 10%, and you're just going to go ahead and pop both the Summer Scotty charge skills on him at that point. And you can already, if you want to, go ahead and rotate one of them for Oberon, fire off the NP one more time. He's going to get the 10% again, and then you're going to go ahead and use his charge skill, which is also his charisma, so you will have had to delay that so that you get better buffing in the earlier waves. And that will then allow him to be sitting at 30% dead even with that 10% refund, plus 70% from Oberon's skills, bringing him all the way up to full one last time. Pop all of Oberon's buffs on him, pop the Mystic Code attack buff, and absolutely go to town. And that would be how you complete the 3-turn with Alexander. Now, taking a look at Alexander's raw numbers here, first we're going to look at his old numbers. His old numbers, we're just going to kind of assume NP5 here. This is his raw numbers. These are not including external buffs, and these are just neutral. So not effective damage here. At MP5, he's going to be looking at about 28k under the old system. Now, don't expect a huge jump here, because all we did was buff the charisma a little bit. So now instead, he's looking at 29k with the new raw numbers here. Definitely helpful, but nothing too much to write home about in terms of difference. Now, as we look at his numbers in an actual composition, Going to see a little bit more wiggle room here, but just again, due to the like sort of full force multiplication effect of getting any sort of change in damage output. So already right there, you can see double Summer Scotty being the new way that it works. And so this is a very interesting thing. His old system worked with double Oberon and a K-scope. This quite literally made it so that his wave 2 damage was about 97k. Wave 3, 182k-ish. And these are still neutral numbers, not effective, so you'd be able to double it if he's up against casters and stuff like that. But the reason I'm pointing out wave 2 is because if you look at his new setup here with double Summer Scotty, the issue is that his wave 2 damage is actually lower. And the reason why is because wave 1 damage is higher and wave 3 damage is higher, but it's because we're actually having to delay the activation in a double Summer Scotty setup of his charisma skill until the 3rd turn. So it actually results in a net negative effect on his 2nd wave due to the nature of these things. His wave 1 is higher because he has that 2nd Scotty there for wave 1, but his wave 2 is lower because he still hasn't activated his own skill, and at that point, that's when the double Oberons came in the other version of this comp. So in a weird way, in the old system, he had more damage wave 2. In the new system, though, he'll have much higher damage on wave 1 and wave 3. The choice is kind of yours for how to kind of figure out how to use him properly there. I'm going to say it's going to depend on the node, and that will dictate where you can get away with him and where you can't, particularly with regards to how many enemies are in the node and what classes they are. So again, if it's all casters, he's in the clear. But if it's maybe a reduced number of enemies, watch out. And certainly if it is berserkers and things like that, you're going to have to be very, very careful about how you use Alexander. So let me know what you guys think about Alexander's new buff and whether or not you think this is going to impact his overall usability for your Chaldea. Where do you guys see yourselves using him at this point in time? Okay, we'll cut there and we'll move on to Martha. Say, what am I listening to? Okay. All right, so now we have Martha coming up here. Martha is going to be our sort of newest unit getting the buff here as the 4-star rider. Now, by the time this video gets posted, we should have our Lancer buff. And in this case, Martha is an interesting one. I think she was somebody that I was expecting could get a buff, but didn't really think that she would be the choice. The reason why is because Martha does have a very defined niche. Throughout her kit, she has the ability to heal and cleanse debuffs. She also has the ability to strip the enemy of buffs, making her very good in certain like annoying raid formats and things like that. So she's always had these niche uses that have been valuable to her, and she has been one of the like better kept secrets of the game in that regard. That being said, definitely not too strong in the way of overall like damage. That's always been her weakness. So the devs actually came in and they upgraded her first skill. The skill originally was just a debuff resistance up for herself and a self heal. That's it. Nothing too crazy. Certainly a decent skill for keeping herself alive, but it's not a hard defense or anything like that. The devs come in, they upgrade it. They quite literally don't touch the original 2 effects. What they do instead is they give Martha 2 things that she needed. The first is 30% charge. This does scale with the skill, and the skill is on a 5-turn cooldown, which means it does allow you to operate now with the double Koyanskaya setup for her. So this is a huge thing. Now you will want to lure your mana loading for her and be able to use this to great effect. This allows her to work in multiple damage dealer setups where she can maybe take out a wave while also setting up another unit for success. Remember that 3rd skill is a targeted defense down. And certainly this will allow her to kind of charge up in a 50% starting charge standpoint in that regard, But then when you consider double Koyanskaya applications, she can be a devoted 3-turner herself now. So that already just massively helps damage output for her. This massively helps her capability to be used in various different compositions. Then, on top of that, the devs said, you know what? She could use more damage. And they don't just stop there. They actually give her a party-wide niche that she didn't have before. It's 3 turns of 50% power mod up against dragon enemies for the entire party. Now, the interesting part about this is there's already other units that do stuff like this. For instance, Dobrynya, and obviously you have like Sumanai and his various variants, as well as Sieg, that can sit there and deal effective damage against dragons. So it's not the most like necessary thing in the world that she has this. Obviously, this is just sort of icing on the cake, but it does allow her another opportunity to be able to pop off and be able to be used effectively. And interestingly enough, if you're looking for another low star option to pair with her, someone like Georgios may actually work out really well, as Georgios' NP can turn people into dragons for the effect that would be exploitable by this skill. So she can be used kind of as a follow-up to that and still sort of a setup man to somebody else. She can be paired alongside Sumanai or any of the other anti-dragon units and just allow them to hit even harder. So this is still a really, really solid upgrade for her, even if at face value this doesn't seem like it's that strong. It's definitely a nice thing for her to have, and you are going to want to, at minimum, at least get the skill up into the level 6 range just to get the cooldown here. But I'm going to say you're really going to want to lure it so you get that flat 30% charge, if nothing else, on top of the maxed out dragon damage niche here. And remember, her NP can be used, as we already mentioned, as a setup device. It does reduce defense for 3 turns after it by 20%. So you can go ahead and utilize her in front of somebody else's Noble Phantasm as a means to be able to deal more damage after the fact. So her having the Dragon Power mod, her having defense down in multiple ways, is definitely really, really solid for her. And I actually really like this upgrade in what it's going to expand the capabilities for her to be able to do and be used in now. So in that regard, I really, really do like Martha's actual scenario. Real quick here, let's go ahead and let's look at charge numbers for her and how you would use her appropriately. Now, like we mentioned before, you're going to want the maxed out mana loading append. She can be used with a 50% CE, so that'd be 70% starting charge. And your composition is going to be the standard Buster composition, which is double Koyanskaya of Light and Oberon there. So her starting out at 70% charge due to these two things, and her then having a charge skill herself, means she can go ahead, pop this turn 1, and have both the Koyanskaya buffs on her to be able to allow her to fire off more damage. So there you go. She uses her NP the first time. She's now in wave 2. And from here, you're going to go ahead and utilize both Koyanskaya's charge skills on her. It's going to actually bring her charge skill back. You could use it here if you wanted to, but I don't really recommend it, as it would be somewhat wasteful. So if you're only in like a 2-turn node or something, it's a possibility since it's on a 5-turn cooldown. But don't use it here if you're trying to 3-turn loop. So again, with the double Koyanskaya charge skills, she's going to be at 100%. Fire off the NP one more time. Now in turn 3, she has the 30% back, so go ahead and use it there. Rotate one of the Koyanskayas for Oberon. Go ahead and pop his again, sort of 70% charge there. Use all of his buffs. And then go ahead and use the Mystic Code attack buff on her and fire off one more time. You can obviously add in her own skill 3 and things like that in order to enhance damage even further. So that is going to be how you complete a nice, easy 3-turn loop on Martha. Now, let's take a look at Martha's damage numbers in a sort of like raw environment. So this is not her with any sort of external buffs. Her only under her own power. It's obviously all neutral damage, so don't assume too much here, but it's an interesting thing to see. So you can actually see we have two sets of numbers in this, and the first is to indicate the number if she has the defense down from her third skill active on the enemy. The second is how much damage she will deal to other enemies that don't have the defense down on them. So in order to look at this, that means NP1 against normal neutral damage here, she dealt 19k to somebody that she has the third skill and effect on, but only 15k to someone that she doesn't. Remember, this didn't enhance her base damage at all. But now she has the new Dragon niche, which even at NP1, neutral damage, only her own buffs, means if it's against the defense down enemy, that's going to be 29k, which is a very solid number. And then if it's not, 22k, which is definitely going to be a little bit more worrisome, but nothing too weak there, as that'll certainly be nice. And then obviously these numbers are just going to go up as you get more additional MP levels, with it capping out at about 43k against dragons with the defense down and 33k without, and then 29k normal with the defense down and 22k without. So definitely an interesting thing to see there. But how does this look in a proper sort of setup here for her? So now on screen, you guys should be able to see Martha's new numbers, and they're very, very big, as there's a lot of possibilities that we have listed here, because we have NP1, NP2, and NP5. So for NP1, these are now her in her proper setup with double Koyanskaya, Oberon, a level 100 cranking, which is sort of the best 50% C for her, and a level 10 Neo plug suit. So at this point, you're looking at wave 1 being about 40k. Wave 2, if you have the third skill Lord, you're going to have it on a short cooldown as well. So you're going to be able to use that on whatever's the high health enemy in wave 2. That's going to be looking at about 51, 52k. And remember, these are still neutral numbers, but now we have buffs behind them. Obviously, for non-defense units, that's still going to be about 40k there. But then wave 3, which is where the Oberon buff's going to come in, the Mystic Code buff's going to come in, really going to spike there. That's where you're going to be looking at 145, almost 146k there against the defense downed enemy, and 116k against all other enemies that don't have the defense down. So really, really nice for her in that regard. Against Dragon Niche, the numbers are 57k for wave 1, 74k for basically wave 2 against the defense down enemy, 57k if not, and then 209k by wave 3 with 167k if it's not got the defense down on it. So really, really strong there. Koyan Sky can also provide man niche numbers for her, and quite literally, you can stack them for even more absurd damage numbers. And then as we look towards the NP2 numbers, it is more of the same, just even stronger, and then even over on the NP5 numbers, an even greater jump there, as you can start seeing Martha doing very, very respectable neutral damage numbers against some of these units. Numbers that, frankly, people thought we would never see Martha actually capable of doing. It's both the power of Oberon and the power of having power mods and niches in play here, but definitely a crap ton of damage for her overall on the output of this stuff. So again, she does have quite the capacity to do a lot of damage. What do you guys think about Martha's new upgrade? Do you guys see yourself using her in more compositions, maybe alongside certain other units? What units do you think you could have the most fun using her with? I'd be curious to hear you guys' thoughts. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys for the next one. All right, easy chat. Okay, this is going to put that in the video, I know it. Vritra's had 0 buffs, right? Yeah, I don't think Vritra's been touched. Boop, boop. Boop. Yeah, so nothing. Like I said, she could certainly use it, but to me, in a weird way, Vritra's still... she's still okay. Like, I'm not gonna say that, like... maybe it's just my bias. Like, quite literally, maybe it's my bias with, like, arc loopers. But, like, I've used Vritra quite a bit on both NA and JP. And while, yes, obviously upward, like, Noble Phantasm damage isn't necessarily there, I still feel like she's really, really solid. I still feel like she's a unit that can perform well for you down the stretch, right? And this is what I will say. I'm probably not using Vritra too much for normal farming, unless it's like a lesser node. Where I'm going to use her is actually a little bit more in like a challenge environment. This skill seal, nice. This party-wide, or sorry, this enemy-wide critical attack chance reduction, also nice. So it's like, this is just limiting damage output from the enemy across the board. And her having the party-wide anti-divine niche, definitely nice for certain things. AFK, thank you for the nice number of months that you have been subscribed. I appreciate that. Jack, can we get some love for AFK on his nice anniversary? Skill seal on Vitra's MP made Tunguska raids completely consistent. Yep. It's really nice. Like, this is where I'm going to say, like, I love Vitra, but they need to be careful. Vitra's got a really, really solid kit. It's like, they can definitely buffer damage output, but they just need to be careful about how much they do it. Now, they want to give her an NP interlude? That'd be strong. She saved me during Tunguska. She doesn't need a lot, but something would be good. Yeah, I agree with that. And that's where I'm going to say, it's like, to me, I'm A-okay. If they come out tomorrow and it's like, oh, Lartore didn't get a buff, Ritra got a buff, I'll be like, all right, is what it is. Like, I'm not even going to be upset about that. Other than, like, man, I've just been hankering for the Lartoria buff for so long. And to be fair, chat, there is something that still sticks with me in the back of my mind. Back when Lartoria got her buff originally, I defended that buff. I was one of the very few people defending it. Because I said, it's like, well, these are two really good niches, right? Like, there's a lot of capability here. To be fair, they are. They're really good. And that is primarily where I use my Lartoria the most. But an argument was made. And the argument was, this should have been an NP interlude. Why was it not an NP interlude that they gave her, like they gave everybody else? And I argued with this person. Still remember it. The person's stance was, it took them 6 years to buff Lartoria. How long is it going to take them to buff her again? He was right. Like, the buff is a good buff. I was right. But he's not wrong to criticize that they didn't give Lartoria the buff that she actually needed. And therein lies the problem. And I can use another example for something like this, chat. How many times are we going to see this with my boy? He needs one thing, chat. He needs this. Who requested this? They're based? Kemba. So, I'm sorry, but at the end of the day, it's like, normally I'm someone that defends the devs. I think the devs usually have a plan for a unit and they enact it. And I think when you look at most of the upgrades are logical. They make sense. They're what the unit needs. They just may not be the thing that the unit most needs at that moment. But everybody is always quick to judge an upgrade one at a time. Whereas the devs look at this from a perspective of this. There are 3 skills. There is a noble phantasm. We don't need the unit to be hyper stacked after one upgrade. We can get them there over time. I think that's how the devs look at it. And I agree with that approach with one problem. Who controls when the buffs happen? Because, like, operating that way is perfectly fine. But you're buffing way too slow. Units are getting left in the dust. So, at what point does that strategy not work? At what point do you actually end up and have to do one of these? Right? Like, when you look at this, you start to go like, yeah, this is why they have to give non-standard upgrades. It's because they spend too long not upgrading. So, therein lies the problem. And then even with a unit that they do constant upgrades for, they maybe don't upgrade well at all. They piecemeal it. And then they end up having to go, I don't know. Like, I'd love to defend the devs, but why do we have units that have this happening at this point? To me, I am terrified of part 3. I am terrified of what that brings to the game if they can't figure out how to even and level the playing field more. Like, not every unit has to be equal to every other. Like, we don't have to go like, you know, like Tiamat. Yeah, Tiamat has to be equal to literally every other alter ego. But we do need a scenario in which Tiamat, maybe if she is out damaging, isn't out damaging by much. We do need a scenario where Kukulkan is not out damaging everybody by leaps and bounds. We do need a scenario where, you know, Melison and Kidu, literally like every single one of these units that we can kind of point to and we can say, this unit way higher than the rest. That's where they need to come in and they need to start leveling the playing field. I don't even need to see it out damage you. I forget who I was talking with. Somebody came into the weekend stream earlier and was like asking me, like, between like Kukulkan and Tiamat, like whether or not I thought like one of them was like super strong and like, you know, that sort of stuff. And I basically ended up saying, I was like, well, don't write Kukulkan off, right? Because at the end of the day, Kukulkan is as strong as she is with a 50% C. And there are ways to be able to make Kukulkan Black Grail loop. When you start to look at that, you start to go like, oh God. And therein lies the issue. So I can easily see a future in which the power creep continues and units that are behind are left further behind. So chat, if power creep, if here is your starting point and here is your ending point, and this is the power creep line, and it goes like this, is that bad? Well, maybe, may not be. It depends what this rate is. But what if right here we also have another line starting that's unit balance? And what if unit balance is happening, aka upgrades, over time? So, I mean, at least we're getting unit balance to offset this. And you look back at these years and you're like, okay, well, there's not a huge gap. But then the gap just keeps widening. And the further out you go, the wider the gap gets. And then you start to go like, what do you do? You're fine, put your big boy pants on. Why would I wear pants? Now, I mean, like, all I'm trying to say is this is something that does worry me for the future. They have to start closing that gap, not letting it widen. You make the Gintama graph. Wait, which one's the Gintama graph? I can only say that because I'm confused as to which one you're talking about. Oh, the filler graph. Yeah. I mean, look, at the end of the day, the game will continue on. But if you have that widening gap, you have a game that is increasingly balanced for the high end of things and not for the units that are left behind. So that's where if like we talk about the grand system, if we talk about low stars, if we talk about 90 plus plus or 90 star or anything like that type of content, you start to realize that, yeah, I mean, the best units in the game can do that, but the worst units in the game can't. And who decides which unit is the worst in the game? I don't know. But all I can say is it might be your favorite. And if the worst unit in the game is your favorite, you don't feel very happy about the game. You feel like your character is getting left behind, and it hurts. Five-star 30% starting charge Cs could help close the gap between people that can't use Black Grail. Yeah, it really could. And I do kind of agree. It's kind of wild. Like, I've proposed that before in the past, is like this would be a solution that would allow people to help with that. There's even people that can operate from a 10% standpoint. So it's like, at least if they can't touch Black Grail, it would give them something that would help them work and have more damage. So I think it's a possibility, but I do really wonder what it is that they're going to try to do. I'm more afraid of supports being power crept. I could see that with Quick. I'm not sure the devs can really power creep arts. Like, they could. That is probably not a power creep that can happen on the NP gain side. It would have to be a power creep that happens on the damage side. But that's the only way I can think of it for arts. Buster, I'm gonna be honest with you, they can't power creep Buster. If they do, they're in trouble. Like, anything they do to Buster makes units that are like, so chat, what if I told you that almost to a T, every single super meta unit is Buster? There's a reason why. So we already talked about Black Grail. And we talked about Oberon's synergy with it. But Oberon himself synergizes better with Buster over every other thing. So they're in real trouble if they ever power creep Buster damage again. because that just it exacerbates this problem. It makes it way worse. Sports already have been power crept and quick. Honestly, not really. Like Scotty is still used with Summer Scotty. Honestly, where probably the most power creep has happened is Arts. Because like right now, if you look, every single like Buster support is still meta. Like Merlin has not ever fallen out of meta. Arts. Even then, I'm gonna say like every single Arts unit is still usable, but there's definitely like tiers of that, and Castoria is absolutely at the top. Like Castoria is the ultimate Arts support, and the only way that you literally power creep Castoria at this point is by giving somebody more damage output, or maybe like it's Castoria's kit, but it also heals somehow. I don't know. At which point, I'm not even going to say that's that detrimental to Castoria. That's extremely detrimental to anyone not named Castoria. Because Castoria at that point, at worst case, becomes the third support and still gets used. Whereas the other units, I don't think they ever get used if that happens. Almost a bit less meta than she used to be. So this is interesting. I would almost counter with Tamamo has never been meta. The only units that Tamamo got conventionally used for farming with were hyper loopers like Surfmo and stuff like that, where they had really, really, really good loop ability. Otherwise, everybody brute forced everything with K-scopes and Waver back in the day. So it's like she still got used, but she never really was the like go-to farming support ever. Your Bride cries in the corner. Bride's still actually pretty good. They've done a good job of keeping Bride up to date. Okay, so this is a funny one. Do you want to know who probably was the hardest hit arts-wise? It was Caskill. And then Caskill came back when they buffed him here, which is actually the buff that we're getting right now on an A. So, in fact, I think it's literally going to come out tomorrow or something. Like, quite literally. Like Caskill, when he first comes out, is stronger than Tamamo. Tamamo gets buffed beyond him. Tamamo gets buffed again, and he's still kind of just left in the dust. He does get some upgrades, but it's not like enough. This buff actually like kind of brings him into relative parity. Not so much in a support category. Now he stands alone as like he can also buff the party, but he is a damage dealer, which is something he really needed. Caskill is Helena, but better now. I mean, he is, but he's also he's devoted arts, whereas Helena can do other card types. So. Was there ever a case where Anderson and Shakespeare were ever meta? Yes. Are you poor? Did you not get waiver? Congratulations. No waiver, no Merlin. You get to use Hans. That was the case for a long time. Like Hans has never been a bad unit, but Hans has always had the issue of like his health is anemic. And so everyone was like, oh God, please I don't want to have to use Hans if I don't have to. He's still good, but he can just get one shot. And so people were like, oh God, please no. So that was just an issue. And again, it was almost always like free to plays and newer players that were stuck using them. So still a great stall sport, yeah. Caskill not being able to loop breaks my heart. Okay, so what if I told you that even prior to this buff, Caskill can loop? Chat, remember that different NP gain rate that Kiritsugu had? There's a reason for this. Y'all ever looked at his hit counts? Bro is AoE 10 hit arts. Bro is 30 hits on a 3 enemy node. There's a reason he has such a low NP gain rate. Yeah, he could actually loop. He's been able to 3 turn since Oberon came into the game, if memory serves. He may have been able to do it before that. I don't remember, but actually, yeah, he may have been possible since Castoria. It's just like he basically required a 3 enemy node. It had to be like perfect circumstances, yada yada yada. But yeah. All right, chat. That is going to be it for me. Hope you guys enjoyed. I feel bad for Okayest. He's got a lot of stuff to edit. And I still got more stuff to record for you guys this week. I have a lot of stuff I want to be doing. This was just the most like immediate of this. Tomorrow we're going to go over the Lancer buff, and we'll see. I may have more time for other stuff, but let me see who all's on. I see a Mr. Fox for us. I'm going to send you guys his way. He's playing some FGO tonight. And again, you guys enjoyed. I guess I should mention this, as I keep forgetting to, apparently, when the time is right. But hey, are you not subscribed to the @CADPlays VOD channel and Variety channel? Please go subscribe to it. That's where you can catch all the VODs from stream, as well as any other content I really have done and uploaded over there. I would really appreciate it. It would really help me out if you guys would subscribe to that channel so that I can get some money from the VODs instead of getting literally nothing. So, but yeah, definitely go do that. Really help me out. If you guys haven't already, we did get a new short out today, so go check that out. Probably get more stuff out tomorrow. I have no idea what Okayest is working on at the moment. I'll touch base with him after stream. So anyways, go give Mr. Fox my love. Have a good one. Thank you guys for being here. Later.